Listen, babe. Oh, yeah. It's alright, alright, alright. 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 Listen, babe. Oh, yeah. It's alright.
All right.
What's up?
Hey. Welcome back. We have a cool session again planned today. Lots of stuff to cover. We'll try something different today. Something small at the beginning. How you doing today?
Doing good. How you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing. Things are good. Life's good. Family's good. Everything's good. So I guess before we get started, I wanted to say this retreat's gonna be a lot of fun, man. We got the chefs coming by the house Saturday to do a tasting for the food and the variations of food that we're gonna have. It's gonna be really nice. I'm working with Marquita and possibly Cassandra to work on some of the format of the material. So we're gonna have a nice set of material, a lot of lessons, a lot of deep dives, a lot of conversations. Bring your best this weekend. That weekend of the retreat, not this weekend, but the weekend of the retreat. Bring your best. Every retreat we've ever had has always been exceptionally nice. You know, I don't think we've ever even heard the N word at any even one of our retreats. Not once. You said it one time. Oh, I forgot. Oh, say it quietly. So, oh, shut up. So.
Oh my God.
In addition to that, but it's always been very peaceful, very a safe space for folks. I hate that word safe space because it sounds like a sucker term, but but because that shit comes from a lot of suckers use that word safe space, and I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. Suckers, but you do need to have safe spaces. Just like you should always invest in social justice, and you should always invest in the betterment of people and the safety of people. But I also understand there is a limitation to the game, right? And I guess I can start here, man. So I think it was sometime this week. I was on my way to the gym, and I saw the most. I have a few mentors that I came through, but the one that really like seeded my personality to who I am today. Somebody that like had the most impact of all my mentors, and he's much harsher than I can even begin. Like, he's harsh because he's in a real estate game, so he doesn't deal with a lot of people. So he doesn't have to make people feel good. So he'll hit you like at your gut. Like he'll say some shit I won't even say, but it's a level of honesty, and he usually does it from a loving and helpful space. But he's kind of harsh. And we were having a discussion. And we were talking about different things, and even a little soft debate on something. And he brought up a point that I've been, and we're gonna call this section of this class called Nana's opinion, because this is just my opinion, and I can't even state. I'm pulling from a lot of facts, and I rarely state my opinions this aggressively at this level. But I want to share something for a reason, and this is I'm talking to everybody about male versus men. I mean, males and men versus guys. There's a lot of talking to. He said to me, he said, Nana, if you were to go to prison, most of men in prison. He used the word. Okay, I'm gonna interchange words to kind of clean up what he said, but. He said most of males in prison are guys, and most of the males who died early are guys, and most males who are in prison who are guys were either raised by their mother or by other guys. That if a man was to raise a child, he would help him become a man. But quite often our community is full of more guys than men. And he said, well, Nana, help me see the difference between a man and a guy. And here's the difference. A guy is almost, they're fun to be around, by the way, because they feel free and lack of responsibility, and they feel free-flowing, and they're going to probably be the funnest dudes at the clubs, right? They're going to probably be the most adventurous person at the events. They're probably be some of the best entertainers. Can be guys. But often guys are fun to be around because they're divorced of responsibility. Number two, what we discovered is that in many countries, they have this discussion between the separation between the man and the guy. It's even, you hear it in multiple ways described all over the world. And what they talk about sometimes, like when you go to the military helps guys become men because they teach you to be responsible for other people, right? Men have a different level of discipline than a guy. You can walk into a circle. I think I was with you or somebody else when we was at the gym, and I went to speak to like 3 young dudes. And they were all guys. And I just spoke to them in a way to talk to them about something they were doing. And they couldn't even look me in my eye. Men, when you speak, they look at you. When a man approaches you, like for example, I remember coming up, I used to sit with these old men, old entrepreneurs, and they were saying, hey man, this contract game is funny. This is like in the 90s. He's like, this contract game is funny. I said, why do you think it's funny? He said, because back in the days, if we shook hands, that was our contract, right? Like our reputation was on our handshake. And nowadays, you see these dudes who are walking around in society, and I think the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think the distortion of a man and a guy is so strong that women are now calling guys men. Now, this has nothing to do with sexual preference, right? It's proven if you put all straight men on an island, some will take on a feminine role and some will take on a masculine role. Some will become guys, some will be men, right? If you take on a group of women, put them all and say, some will take on a masculine role, some will be feminine roles, right? It's just because the gender is different than the sex, right? But I think in current society, and then on top of that too, it's kind of an argument on being detribed. Like African Americans in this country, we become a tribe. If you don't think you're a tribe, go speak to Africans that are not born in this country and watch how you realize you're not talking the same language, right? When I'm walking down the street, I go, what's up? You go, what's up, right? That's a tribal way of communicating, and we also have tribal coping ways. But in that tribe, historically, the way a tribe develops its men is they have a ritual to help that young guy evolve into becoming a man, right? So whether it's through some type of, when I was coming up, it was like sports helped you become a man. They taught you values of manhood, right? In addition, other men in the neighborhood taught you values of manhood. In some cultures, you have to go through a rites of passage to become a man. Well, nowadays, these young guys don't have a passageway to manhood. And often they're acting out in ways that put their life in high levels of danger. Because in the end, there's a desire for a guy to become a man. But if there's no pathway for a lot of these young men to become men, for young males to become men, they often put themselves in situations, driving your car crazy, pulling guns out, hollering and screaming at each other, driving your car as fast as you can, doing all these risky acts to kind of roar as a young guy, not having a clear pathway. And it's so funny because we've gotten to a point where we forget the impact of our environment and how our environment shapes, like we're a product of our environment. But because we're a product of our environment, we should realize we have to manage that environment. If we don't manage that environment, then what kind of product we become, we're not sure. We can't define that. And in order to have a healthy culture, you kind of have to have standards of what is a man, what is a woman, or how do you show up to those spaces gender-wise, not sexual, because you could be a gay male who's a man. You could be a gay male who's a guy, and you could be a gay male who's on the feminine side, right? I'm not really speaking towards the feminine side. This is really a man conversation right now. So this is not about sexual preference, because once again, I know a lot of gay men, right, who are strong men who are gay. I'm not talking about men like machismo. I'm not talking about running around flexing and I'm a man and deepening your voice, right? Because I think that's how the guy sells himself as a man. Because he's got this deep voice, he's selling himself like this, but his lack of responsibility, his lack of owning his social responsibility, his lack of understanding that he has to show up for others, his lack of self-discipline, his lack of ability to confront. For example, one thing that men are known for in tribal groups is when other men got out of control, the men confront the guys who got out of control. So if a group of guys are acting up and they're doing a lot, men are the ones who will step up and say, hey, calm that down. For example, on my block, some dudes drove their car to the end of the block and it was a stolen Benz. Windows busted out, you can tell it's stolen, it's all the doors, brand new Benz. So I go outside and say, my bruh, we're not doing this on this block. So y'all can take that up the street or wherever else you want to go, but on this block, we're not having that, right? That's a man rule. My neighbor, something very similar like that happened, and he was on his phone like this. He's a guy. Because young males in the black community are underperforming because of the lack of men presence. Men are the ones who shape these young males to become future men. But if men are so busy being guys, which is just chasing pleasure, sex, the next level of entertainment, the next little moment of happiness, and that's it. You're not postponing a moment of happiness for deeper investment. You're focusing on just happiness back on top of happiness. So if you're not shopping, if you're not getting your hair, your nails, which is crazy how to say it that way, but your hair and nails done, you're not chasing and sleeping with some kind of woman, and you're not at the club, or you're not watching sports, and maybe you might do your chores, and that's pretty much the typical male role in our community. As opposed to men understand, how are you giving back? There's an argument that says the modern day male, historically a man would miss many meals to help somebody out. They said the modern day male will never miss many males would never miss a meal to help somebody else out. meaning they will always make sure that they protect their own personal comfort, right? Even here in the blame game, men don't blame like that. All the men I really know, without having this class, they don't blame like that. They don't. That's just not how they roll. But guys, they'll blame the woman. They'll blame the job. They'll blame the hidden white supremacy. They'll blame the gods. They'll blame something is coming for them. A man don't blame like that. A man realizes if the environment is not providing what he needs to challenge the environment. But what a man doesn't do is sit around and tell everybody that they're responsible for making him somebody. But quite often, we don't realize because sometimes, this is, and part of this is like when a mama's raising a child by herself, especially if she's traumatized, the attention that she gives that child often deprives that child of his manhood. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, when the population becomes dominated by guys, even the possible men can be raised in your house is being influenced by guy shit. And so now women think guys are men. But yet they don't realize they're lowering their standards every day of what they expect from them. And then after a while, when something really goes down in the community, guess what they do call? The white man. Cold game, isn't it?
Cold game.
But nobody, I think we don't articulate that well. I think that's important. I think it's important because, white women came into our schools and said no violence. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, they took the men into a room, put some boxing gloves on us. We boxed. We were best friends from that day on. Because sometimes, look, life is really complex. Sometimes you need catalysts for a better improvement. You got to have a catalyst for things to become better. Sometimes people got to die for humans to become better. Sometimes people got to go to war for people to become better. Sometimes we got to fight to be closer, right? But what happens is that we're caught in this nice little clean Disney-style narrative of, everybody lived happily ever after, and we're all running up this little yellow brick road or some shit, and we don't realize that, hey, we're a different animal, and somehow manhood is starting to be because, and I get it. I mean, in all fairness, there's a sensitivity to the oppressive state and the fucked up culture that the LGBTQ plus have experienced, but it's coming at the expense of us losing track on what the fuck we're supposed to be doing as men. Mm-hmm. Like we don't articulate to other men, hey, this is man shit, and this is guy shit. This is man shit, this is boy shit. And it's important, if we don't say that, y'all think because a dude can, do you really well at night, he's a man. You think because his voice is hella deep, he's a man. You think because he got hella muscles, he can fight, he's a man. No, that doesn't make you a man at all. At all. It's how you are showing up in society. And I promise you, I remember because back in the days, I did this test. I used to do these little fun tests. So I did one test a long time ago, said, how many men can be faithful more than 20 years? And I remember I did that test for 2 years. Every man I ever asked, say, hey, 20 years, can you be faithful for 20 years? Not one man said yes. Well, there's one man argued yes, and then he cheated like 2 years later. I was like, okay, you ruined this. So these are little fun things I was doing when I was in my 30s, whether it's true or not, but it's my little small circle of people I ran across at gyms. You see, because me and we all saw each other on basketball courts, so I would ask these same questions. So then I would ask, the next poll I had was, hey, brother, what's your purpose? Right? What's your purpose? Do you realize I didn't run across too many people that said they knew what their purpose was? I would argue, and I'm sure you can argue this, I know more guys than I know men, by far. It's not even close. The ratio is ridiculous. It could be like 8-1 or 9-1 or 10-1. It's really bad. And yet the most dominant conversation I hear on television is guy talk. Most popular conversation you hear at the club, guy talk. Most popular conversation you hear at churches, guy talk. You rarely hear men talk anymore. It's almost like when a man does show up, he makes people uncomfortable. He seems extreme. He seems like, damn, you sure are doing a lot. But we don't see, if we put that man next to a white man, you might say, okay, what do you mean white man? Every law that you follow, society as it runs, jail and prison, college and universities, the food systems, cars and automobiles and roads. This is all expression of manhood. I know y'all might say, what do you mean? Because when men decide this is how we want to build and protect and we want to invest in society, We produce these rules. You can't. Nobody has time to tap on everybody's shoulder. Like, hey, don't do that. Hey, don't do that. Hey, do that. But a police system is a man system. It doesn't mean that women don't protect. And mind you, let me be very clear. Womanhood and manhood is really fucked up as it is because women, you guys are powerful as fuck. But your power is often overshadowed and distorted by men telling you that they're greater in their little fucking lies. So women are told often you need to be more like men to be seen as strong, when no, you don't. It is proven if you go to the history, look at the history of war. Matter of fact, if y'all ever want to know more about men and women culture, study us doing war. It'll tell you so much about our behavior. And what they found is that men may be good at, like, say, if a bomb blew up, men are good in going in and finding people and saving people, right? But if you want to restore stability and high levels of morality, women are much stronger and much more powerful than men, right? It's a balance. This is why when you put men and they just leave them on the island by themselves, they could be all straight men. Some men will be more feminine and some men will be more masculine because it's a balance, the balance that's needed, right? But somehow somebody sold us this cheap-ass story that men and women are different and men are stronger and women need to become strong. No, women, you are dominant as hell. But some of you guys are playing the man game, which weakens your strength. And a lot of men are playing the boy game and can't play the man game, right? And it's just one of those situations. And then, once again, this is not a gender thing. I'm gonna show you. Okay, let me show you one more point about violence. So let's go back to that story I told about the teacher back in high school when we had beef. So say me and Courtney had a beef, they'd be like, "Okay, tell you what, come on in this room. Y'all put on some gloves, go." You might say, "No, that seems just. You don't believe in spankings. I mean, that's physical violence." Did you know that during war, human beings psychologically become healthier? During the time that London received 57 days of bombing on the residential area only, I just want you to think about that. 57 days of just bombs hitting the residential area only by Germany. The people still went to church, people still went to bars. But what they found is that people start taking less drugs for mental health. And the mental health institutions, the numbers went down drastically. Because what they found is that when human beings are put to the highest level of test and we feel committed to something or we engage in something at that level, it actually puts us in a healthier space. So sometimes humans need friction to rise to a higher level. But in this modern day culture, we think we're supposed to just create a cotton world for human beings to become stronger, when actually human beings become higher in morals. We let go differences. We become more supportive. We become more unified. Even in New Orleans, when New Orleans went down, crime dropped by 40%, right? Even when 9/11 went down, crime dropped. Like when human beings are faced with a challenge, we rise to a higher level. When human beings now here's a cold story. So in London, when they were getting bombed, there was a place that was not that far away, but they were the same race, but they were not that far away, but they were not being bombed at all. The men who could not participate and support the people who were being bombed, their depression went up. Here's another thing too. What they found is that I'm showing you how this good and bad measurement of life fucks us up. So PTSD is a natural space your brain has to go into during war to survive. It's called acute PTSD. So it's just supposed to last for a short period of time. Then once you get into like peaceful land, it's supposed to deteriorate, right? But long-term PTSD is kind of a rare thing, except recently. And what caused it to be different is, so in Jerusalem, PTSD is pretty low. Because when you come back from war, you have to participate in the stability of the nation, right? So you still have a value to add to society. In this society, you don't have a value. A lot of times people come back from the war, they don't have nothing to add. But here's the thing that really kicked it off. This is what they found out. Guess what made PTSD get out of control in this country? Is when everybody started telling them that the people that came from the war, you are victims. And once they started hearing they were victims, their PTSD was extended. Oh, guess what? Black Lives Matter people, victim minorities. Oh, people who are suffering from poverty. Oh my God, you're in this bad space. Oh my God, you're victims of oppression. Oh my God, you see what's happening here? We might be slightly victims of all these things, but you're making it 10 times worse. What they found is that when men came back from war, the human brain has the ability to become two people. There's a famous story about this. I ain't gonna get to the story, but when a man is at war, he's a different animal. He's an animal that will serve the space he is in war. When a man comes out of war, he becomes a whole. It's like two separate people, a split in his character when he comes back to a peaceful world, right? And he can make that adjustment if society allows him to make that adjustment. But what happened was, instead, these men didn't even know they were suffering from anything. But people started telling them they were suffering from anything. So to give you an example, during the Vietnam War, check this out. During the Vietnam War, okay, so Vietnam War lost a third less people than World War II. So a third less people died in Vietnam than only a third of the portion of 2/3 less died in Vietnam than World War II. But there was a 50% increase in PTSD cases. I'm trying to show you guys how we have this really soft tissue handling of engagement of people. We don't realize that some of the shit we go through, like if you go back to what Sadhguru was discussing, you don't have problems, you just really have situations. And if you go into the idea ally versus adversary, we could argue that white people makes us stronger. We could argue that, right? But we don't take advantage of us becoming stronger from our engagement. We actually become weaker because we buy into these external ideas of, oh my God, Black Lives Matter. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then the guys be like, yeah, that's why, honey, I couldn't pay rent last week because they would not. Motherfucker, cut it out. Matter of fact, there was a last report in 2000. I think it was 2010. They said 7 out of 10 boys born in this country was born in a single-parent household. In addition to that, add on, like my mentor said, how many of those households were led by guys, not men? Just because having a male body in a house doesn't mean you have a man in the house. This is just something that, this is a serious crisis. Because police brutality could be easily resolved if we have men in a community. Men will resolve that problem. Men will resolve it. Guys won't resolve that problem. Guys will be on their cell phones, making phone calls. Guys will be like filming it and then marching with pink hats on their heads. Men, they resolve it. If you look at the Italian man who came over here to the mafia, and when the white man told him, "We're gonna do this to you," he said, "No, you do this to us, we do this to you as well." That's what a man does. But guys, they buy into the fear stories. Oh my God, the KKK. They're human beings with a sheet on. That's all. They're just human beings. Even when they bleed better. You see more of the blood. It's quick to see. It's white. It shows up real fast. I just want y'all to think about this conversation about men versus guys. For the young males who are listening to this conversation, it's not okay to be a guy. It's not okay to stay a boy. A guy is nothing but an extended boy. That's all he is. He's an extended boy, and he's looking for mama to always take care of him, whether his mama is his mama or mama is you. He's looking for that mama to take care of him.
Shit. Damn.
Anything online before I move forward? Huh?
There is one thing. I believe Fern said that you were trying to say guy equals little punk motherfucker.
What?
Fern was trying to say that you're saying that guy actually equals little punk motherfucker.
He's a little punk motherfucker? No, I didn't say that exactly like that, but I think, and here's the thing, I don't think, okay, let me do this real quick. This is not for us to build internal friction, right? Males are not becoming men because we have a breakdown, right? Otherwise, because some males don't even know that's a thing to do.
I have no clue.
So we can't start blaming, don't go out there and start pointing fingers at guys. But it's something that, it's like, you have to be able to, you got to watch the clues in society to see where you at, to see what you need to work on. And you got to also understand if you grab a group of males and ask them to take on certain responsibility and they fail and you didn't know there's a difference between a man and a guy, then his outcome is almost predictable because he is not comfortable being responsible for others. He's barely comfortable being responsible for himself. So now you ask him to take on a highly responsible role. They don't have, because if I actually take on a role, you're going to have dips. But a guy, when he takes a dip, he buys into, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I got this shit I want to do. I'm not really into all this. It's too much. A man sits back and go, hey, what are we doing wrong? How do we get back on track? Right? We live beyond, look, you get more happiness from giving. A man is taught that your life is to give back to others. Then, so one of the things my mentor said is that if a boy is in his bed, sleep, and he's raised by a man, and the father pulls up in his car, that boy will come out of that dead sleep and get that trash put out that he was told to put out before he left. Because his father, he knows his father don't play those rules. But why is he like that? Why is his father that strict on those rules? Because his father's teaching him responsibility. How he has to show to be responsible for his actions. Matter of fact, you remember when we was growing up, I was raised in a house where if me and my sister did something and she got in trouble, I got in trouble. Because they wanted to teach me that, oh, you're responsible for your sister. Don't you get this twisted, oh, she didn't get in trouble and you cool. If she got in trouble, you knew about it and you didn't help out, you both in trouble, right? Nowadays, we kind of having this weird discussion like, oh, you know what, you were bad, but you know what, you were good because you, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, we're losing this man conversation that, and see, I was fortunate because the men of my age were coming from World War II in Vietnam. So I had a lot more men around me. So when I was coming up, men were the most dominant thing I saw because war just ended. We've been out of war so long that now the guy thing is popular. Because more males taking on corporate jobs. Let me keep it 100. Corporate jobs are feminine. I don't know how to tell you. It's feminine. Most men can't take corporate jobs. I'm not about to let you talk to me a certain kind of way out of disrespect. It just ain't gonna happen, right? I'm not about to play this petty game. If you have a system of emotion, I'll be like, fuck your emotions, right? That's man talk. But most corporate jobs, but as .com becomes bigger money being paid to guys become more popular. So the other day, I'm talking to Noah down the street. We were having this conversation about men versus guys. Dude drives by his car, because I'm double parked. Dude drives by his car. Pull your car over, and he keeps driving. Guy. Another dude comes out of his house with his poodle. I'm talking about a little bit of poodle, and he doesn't even, he walks by us, can't even look at us. Just, right? Another guy comes out, get his pizza. Like, you just see, guys don't have a certain energy about them. Men, when they come out their house, how you doing? What's going on? Because men own that space. It's territorial. Guys don't do that. Guys, I'm on the stairs the other day. A man walks by me, he'll say, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? We don't have to have a conversation, but I'm going to say hi. Guys, walk by me 4 times like you can't find what the fuck you looking for. What's wrong with you? Now, I don't get sensitive about it, but I've been paying attention to this for like years. And over the years, manhood has just been deteriorating so fucking much. It's deteriorating, and this, once again, this has nothing to do with sexual preferences, but it's deteriorating so much that men are wearing dresses for shock value. Now, if you bisexual and gay, and that's how you rocking it, cool, right? If Nas X wears a dress, I have no thoughts. Russell Westbrook, what you doing, bro? But that's how far guys, but for a guy, that's not really a jump of a conversation. For a man, that's awkward. Because a man takes pride in our differences because we are a balance, and we also understand our weaknesses. If you're listening to me right now, and you're a man, you don't know what I'm talking about as far as understanding the power of a woman, go into the wilderness or go camping for a week and watch how you start to see the strength of a woman and the strength of a man could become a beautiful balance. So when you're in a big city, everybody can push the same button. You start thinking, oh, we're the same. We're not the fucking same. We're a beautiful complement to each other.
And there's no one more powerful than the other.
None. There's no such thing as one more
equally
powerful.
as powerful.
None.
It's yin and yang energy. And there's not one more powerful or stronger than the other.
None.
It's just different power. So that's why one is yin and one is yang. Now, masculine and feminine energy are completely different in how they exude and exert their power. But it's exactly what you talk about. A lot of times, because of the society that we came from, which is male-dominated, male narrative, male this, male that, that some women think that in order to gain power, they need to imitate the movements and rhythms of a man. But in actuality, if they stood in the power of who they are as a woman, they kill a game. They kill the fucking game.
Take down tyrants.
Because a man, a man who is attracted to women is also can be subdued by the power of a woman without even just by look or a word or just her energy or sensuality. So somebody should be sure, Cassandra, somebody need to teach that class and write that book so that we can help shape that side to say stop. It's the same thing that I learned from you a while ago about when I first came here about code switching. Like, why the fuck would you try to talk like somebody who's not you? They put you in a weaker position off top because you can't beat them. But if you the minute I start being comfortable being me with my hats and my language and 100%, now I'm not nervous. And now you got to show up to me. Now, and I'm in my comfort zone. I can still show you my intelligence and get the deal, but I got it in my own power. It's the same exact thing.
Oh, I so want to jump into this conversation, but we got to move on. Fuck. There's so much, but I'm online has a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The question is, how do cultural trends play into guys evolving into men? For example, cultural trends like hip hop culture or music genres.
Let me jump in.
Go ahead.
Quick. So I'll give you my example. I was raised by a woman. I didn't have men figures. I watched my dad up till I was 9, but most of those years he was a dope fiend, crackhead. So I didn't know what a real man does. Now, when I hit puberty, I started looking. I want to see who amongst my friends' dads, are men, and I'd copy their moves, how they held cups, all the little details of even how they held a fucking cup or how they sat. Oh shit, let me not cross my legs no more because I don't see no men doing that. So you don't realize when you don't got no men around you how much detail that you have to find to become one. So that shit ain't easy. So that's why we call it gender dysphoria. Is because even when you have the most intentions of being a man, you look around, physically they ain't around. So then you say, okay, cool. Well, shit, Tupac, he sounds manly to me. I'm a fuck with it, and he gets a lot of respect, and he's rich. So I'm gonna study everything Tupac does. And Bill Cosby, that's another model. Like I used to watch the Cosby Show and be like, oh shit, I'm far from there because I got ratchets and roaches in my shit. But at least I can see a dynamic. So it's like you said, it's a major gender dysphoria that's happening to our culture now. It's not something that changes overnight, but there needs to be beacons of people. Because a lot of times men, they ain't gonna stand up in front of no crowds and say no shit to no people. They're gonna be good to them, to their family, to the community on the low. And if you're fortunate enough to be around them, I had one partner, I was spending the night at his house. Man, I would soak up so much game on them spending nights. And guess what he did? If I happened to spend a night on a day that they all went school shopping, guess who got school clothes? I did. If I happened to just show up when they was going to Disneyland, no, don't send them back home. You coming with us? Ask your mom. And I learned that. I peeped that game. Like, oh shit, that's how you do it. But it's over. You know what I'm saying? Like I had one or two. So a person has to actively seek that out.
Yeah, it's so historically, most cultures do, they put things in place to develop men. Like when the war and the draft was a part of this country, going to war in the United States military was a man process, right? playing sports used to be a manly process. But you talk to these new coaches who, like, I'm talking to a lot of people in the sports, and they're like, yo, all of these men on my team are single parent boys. And they're having problems trying to manage these kids because these kids are just hella emotional, hella sensitive, hella disconnected, hella self-centered, hella narcissistic. And it's like, fuck, how do I manage these people, right? It's almost like even schools used to have a manly type of expectation of like priming you for that process. And now when I go to these schools lately, I spent a little time in the schools about 5 years back for about a 5-10 year stretch. And it's a very feminine environment. It's a fucking feminine environment for males. It's not a place where, because what happened is that the fear of them being harmed turned into fear of them being harmed, the acts of safety became a feminine environment for men.
Yeah.
Men need to have a little bit of, like, okay, a man's life is about building a healthy relationship with friction. That's what men do. But almost all the movements that's happening right now are feminine movements. These are not men movements. Men don't move like this. We just don't move like this.
And I would say I'm not so confident that they're feminine movements. There's something else. Because I think that femininity in and of itself has without a whole lot of damage, it has a very healthy relationship with friction and competition. And it can embrace resilience very much so. That resilience is feminine. Being able to address and handle and navigate friction is femininity. This other thing that we have is some sort of distortion, but I don't think that it serves men or women. It certainly doesn't serve women, because the normal, natural way that we are able to handle adversity and triumph over it, somehow we're victims of our emotions and our feelings, and that's not femininity at all.
Yeah, I think in all fairness, I think you guys may have layers, right? I think the layer that's dominant, because like Black Lives Matter is not a man, that's not a man movement, right? Even though guys have joined it, that's not a manly type movement, right? That was a feminine-driven agenda, right? Me Too, that's not, so the LGBTQ, the way the woke movement is now.
It's a fragility movement.
Yeah, wait, I was saying, but there's if you listen to VPR, Victim Public Radio, right? Because that's what I call it. I don't call it the International Public. That's just victim. Every time you turn on, they're talking about victims. The voice that's being used, men don't know that voice. Hi,
You're right.
Last
You're
week,
right.
Mrs. Johnson got robbed.
right.
We don't talk like that. We don't even like not men. There's guys who do, and I meet guys who are they're in this tiptoeing space of trying to make everybody comfortable, right? They're trying to nurture. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. They're trying to over nurture. It's not like a healthy nurture. I think safe space is good if it's done to a certain point. But when it's overdone, it's destructive. I think nurturing is done at a good. So I think, yes, a strong woman, a real woman, like my mother was the alpha of the whole family structure. So if anybody had beef in our family, my mother was like the don of the family, right? But her femininity, I watched my mother take a white man down in words, and I was like, yeah, I'm weaker than my mom. I gotta get stronger than my mom. I gotta figure out how to get stronger than her because she's way too strong, right? So I seen powerful women, and I was raised by powerful women. I had grandmother and great-mother that just, when shit went down, they took care of it, right? But I also had guys in my family who were just running around, getting high, doing all kind of stuff, getting their hustle on, and barely surviving. Where men, the few men I had in my family that was strong, they were the ones, similar to what Court just explained, they were real strong backbones. They weren't very, they're not gonna get on this microphone. But when I say their strength was like something to witness, like, I'll give you an example of a man in a neighborhood. I have somebody on the basketball court that's being raised by a man. Let's say we're all playing basketball and we're getting riled up. Man, fuck you. A man can walk in the middle of that court right between the friction, be like, hey, y'all cut that shit out, man. Come on now. And it's the way he'll do it, and we'd be like, man, he tripping. You two got me. But all of a sudden, we're talking to him, negotiating before we get to the other guy, right? A man has a way of walking amidst the guys and just because and it's not that he's going to actually it's if me and him, if you've seen us raise our voice, men can roar and get all the way to that line and never cross it. Because we know we're negotiating, right? And we're pushing that, we may use that line on negotiation. Guys won't even roar. The first roar, they're going across that line right away. They come across that line with guns, bullets, hands throwing, everything they can. Men will like, what, man? What? When you see men argue, if they do argue, because it doesn't happen often, but when they do, it's not a, we understand you got a family, I got a family. Why? Like somebody might say, why'd you hit that man? He has a family. The man will say that kind of question. Guys, don't worry about that.
And I do want to agree with you. I think the absence of men in the educational system, it's overly feminine. And because there's no presence of men, it's like everything that is nurturing is right. And anything that's not showing up like that by default has to be wrong.
Yeah.
I think this is a dope conversation too, is because we're basically witnessing the atrophy of what's happened in the last 30 years in our community. And now on the ascend, it's opening the conversation to say, hey, yo, check this out. Do we want to keep going in this direction, or do we want to create some men? Now going to the sports, I agree, and I used to be really juiced. People used to tell me, you know, are you angry that it's so many AAU teams and so many basketball teams that are out there diluting the game? I said, fuck no. You know why? Because more kids are in the presence of coaches and men than ever before. So yes, I'm happy because on them trips to Las Vegas, they get to watch what men do, how they take care of them, meals that they buy, all those things, and teach them some structure through athletics and sports. Now, the thing about it is, as we move through these years and we continue to get softer and more feminine and more, not feminine, but we tend to get softer as humans and more sensitive to friction, then we're going to continue to atrophy as men. We're going to continue to where we think we're doing the right thing, and at the end of the day, somebody could just knock you over. Like, there used to be mandatory wrestling in school.
Yeah, I went to that.
You had to, what's your weight? Okay, this is your weight class. Okay, here's all the people in your weight class. Y'all go, and you work through it to see who get down the best here. That was mandatory in school. And you couldn't be like, I got asthma, or like, here's my note from my mom. Fuck that shit.
Yep.
You gotta go.
Yep.
There's not even, that shit wouldn't fly a half of a second in these times. And I feel like that's also going to contribute to it has a possibility to contribute to the demise of our culture.
Yeah, we don't realize we live in a world that men dominate. Like men are dominating, like men are making sure that human beings get fresh water, we get fresh food, we get medical care, we get a society that we can exist in, and yet the man who lives amongst him is functioning as a guy. And it doesn't, look, I'm not raising an argument to fight white men. That's not what I'm arguing. We're not contributing to the conversation. Like, that's a problem. We're not contributing. Men don't have, men defend. That's just kind of a role that the world has put us in for thousands of years, defending. The black man don't have the ability to say no to other men. That's a problem. And it only is because, it's not because black men have this some forces stopping us, it's because we're not producing men. We don't understand the value of it. Look, me and Court tells us the same story, how we both was running home from somebody. And we ran in the house, Mama, this boy is chasing me, throwing rocks. Mama comes in the room, both our stories almost parallel, slaps us in the face and said, go out there and face him. Because that was a ritual of manhood. Even if the boy whooped us, it was, who do we show up to inside of ourselves? Who do we become, right? Some of us are grown males still running from the bullies in life. Mm-hmm. So y'all over here demonizing the bully. We're like, no, the bullies are rites of passage for a lot of young males. Mm-hmm. Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Hey, she want you to go to stool still. They want you to stool.
Are adult guys beyond repair? The conversation we're talking about raising males, but what about
No, you can become a male at any age. You can become a man. Actually, you can become a man. Men are not just. It's not a. It's not a youth to, like, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, you gotta start young and become a man. It's just that a lot of, because I would argue that a lot of guys want to be men. A lot do. They just don't know where to go, where to start. And if the popular surrounding is telling you this is far you need to go, I mean, you can't live amongst another organized people and not be driving organization in your community. Right? And if you really want to argue, I don't think black women have fell short because a lot of us are here because of, like, the civil rights movement was really a woman's movement. Like, men be trying to take credit for that shit. Like, you know, we talk about Martin, but if you actually look at who was actually out there getting the work done, it was black women, right? Mm-hmm. So black women have been carrying the banner. And I get slavery and all that stuff, but at some point we can't use, you know, just like you tell them somebody who's been molested when they're 12, when they're 4 and they're 50 years of age, okay, now you can't use it no more. It's kind of, we can't use this no more. Men, we can't excuse ourselves and say, oh, you know, this happened in slavery and Jim Crow. We still have to fight to get back to man our stations because black women are out here fighting by themselves. Even today, economically, like, you know, black women are going to work for white men all the time. That's a problem. That's a problem. Like, as a man, I'm not comfortable. I don't sit at home going, okay, shit, get your money, get my money. No, because those values are removing you from, because there's removing you from focusing on our needs, because at the end of the day, you're going to build a connection with that based upon the rules of thermodynamics, is that if you're around something long enough, you become a part of it. Right. So if we can't hire you, we can't even harness one of the most powerful animals in the world, the black woman. And so that as a man, that should disturb us and make us like, that's an urgency to jump on. But I promise you, if this conversation was blasted all through Oakland and you were able to sit next to just watch black men think and process, they're not thinking about it that way. They're not. They're not. They're in guy mode. Guy mode's self-survival, and that's all I'm thinking about right now.
So what should the relationship between black men and black guys look like?
Well, there has to be institutions that allow black men to go through a journey to become, guys become men. It's not about me, hey, bruh, be a man. That doesn't translate. Right. You got to build institutions that's designed to help develop manhood. Otherwise, there's no way. And manhood is not going to be a static destination. It's a moving target because based upon social needs, you have to make those adjustments, right? Sometimes you fight and sometimes you retreat. Sometimes you attack and sometimes you build. Sometimes you rest. Like, all those are part of manhood. But right now, we don't even see that that's a needed priority to start thinking about. We talk about schools all the time. Like, schools is our pathway out. No, for men, they got to first know who the fuck they are as an animal. Otherwise, you can raise a big-ass masculine guy that just, my man, I respect my man. Like, if you had to say respect my manhood, that should tell you something.
I would also add, the fastest way to trigger a guy is for a man or a woman to call him out on being one. You're gonna drive them further that way, and they triggered. Just the way it goes. That's the weird thing. Is like a guy has to want it. He got to see it, like, and be like, that's what I want. That's how I want to move. I want respect like that. I want the youngsters to respect him like that. I want to take care of my family like that. I want to take care of my woman like that. Like, he has to aspire first. You can't force it, and it has to come from that person.
Men have to also, like, for example, the reason a lot of young guys aspire to be other guys because guys are popular. Mm-hmm. And entertainment, a guy can be really okay. Have you guys ever watched what's that show when they show how artists go broke? It comes on TV all the time. It shows you how all these artists went broke. Unsung. Okay. All those stories are good. Most of the stories are guys. Most of the stories are about guys who said, "Oh, they didn't take care of me, so I thought, they were guys." Even Teddy Pendergrass was a guy. If you ever listen to him talk, he's like, Marvin Gaye was a guy all day long, right? Rick James was a pure guy, right? But funny enough,
James Brown was a man.
James Brown was a man, and the dude that Ghostbusters, the dude Ray Goodman,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
Right? Very few men and if you want and Aretha Franklin was a powerful ass woman. Because no. This is how I stand. This is my position, right? There's a lot, and in the hip hop world, there's so many key. Like I saw a little segment of Young Thug because everybody's been telling me about this Young Thug dude because I didn't know it. I still ain't heard the song. I don't know what the song is. So, but I saw him being interviewed on 107 Park or whatever that is. 107 or whatever the thing on New York.
106 in Park.
106 in Park, yeah, one of them numbers. So, whatever. You
That's just like an OG. 107, one of them numbers.
He's on KSOL. So anyway, it's
107.7.
Yeah, 107.7. You know what I'm saying? But he was saying, because they say he was a real, like, wild dude in the streets, and he was saying. I started to become a man, but he goes, but the industry don't pay you for being a man. He started working on being mature. He didn't say man. Working on my maturity, but the industry pays you for acting like a boy. You get more money in hip hop for being a boy. So you don't see Kanye West is a guy. He's not a man. Jay-Z's a man.
Jay-Z's a man.
Right? It's a different tone. Even watch how 50. Okay, you don't have to agree with everything they do. Men is not perfect. Let's not make men Jesuses. Men is the way you show up to situations and how you respond, how you position yourself, right? And you can see it's just like, I watch 50 Cent when they try to do that challenge thing. He's like, man, don't play that shit, man. I ain't got time for that shit. Because men just don't, some things just don't attract a man like that.
Hey, watching the Wu-Tang movie, I realized that his mom created the structure, created the formula, moved in a way that RZA became a man. The way he was able to orchestrate 7 other hood dudes and bring them together in one group in harmony with each other with a one goal, and they made it as one of the best hip hop groups in history. Only a man can do that, especially when some of the group members were enemies, literally shot at each other and sat them down. Was like, no, look, let's get this money together. Fuck what you talking about. Fuck what you talking about. Like, only a man can do that.
So anyway, just a story, something to think about, because the black man, and I don't want to be simplified, because I know the word black man has got whooped on through the 90s. Nation Islam movement, that everybody just took it and went crazy with it.
We're the Asiatic original black man from the 70s.
Yeah, and but there is a crisis happening, and I've been witnessing this crisis for about 20-some years or 30-some years. How, and I never forget when men start getting their feet done all the time. Like it's okay if you get like, okay, I gotta get my feet done because, my toes or my nails or something's bad or my ankles are messed up. I'm like, when do men have time for that? I'm not even playing with this. When do men have time to be overgroomed? I got my beard manicured, I got my hair done, I got my nails. Motherfucker, you are too self-centered for me. Men, we're here to contribute so the world that our kids grow up gets better. You never had time to contribute because you've been at the shop the whole fucking time. Your eyebrows are tighter than your woman's eyebrows. This one dude told me, he's getting married. He said, man, yeah, I gotta get my eyebrows tattooed because they weren't dark enough. I said, I can't look at this motherfucker, man. I can't do this, man. I can't do this.
What?
He got his, like, you hear these conversations from men. Let me show you another bitch ass guy move. Yeah, I got my girl to buy me some shoes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Fix my eyes. Oh my God. I know sexual preference and transgender the thing. Are you transgender? Because how the fuck you tell me that? How the fuck you gonna tell me as a man you got a woman to buy you shoes? and you pride it like as if it's a win. I can't respect that. I can't respect that. We're supposed to be building the infrastructure for you to soar in. And right now the infrastructure is so bad, we got work to do. How in the fuck am I at the nail shop every week? What am I walking down the street with a fucking poodle for? What am I doing with this poodle? I don't walk with my little poodle on my phone, on my poodle. Who I think I'm Paris Hilton? What the fuck is wrong with me? Anyway, I'm gonna stop here because I'm gonna offend somebody, and then they gonna text me with their little soft ass words, their soft ass complaint, cancel me with their little soft ass circle, and guess what? I don't give a fuck. Anyway, I'll be over there hanging out with Dave Chappelle having drinks. Anyways, let's go on. Let's jump into this email shit. Oh, you got another question?
Fern did ask, just in the conversation, I think it was in response to like the femininity conversation. She was saying she wanted to see if we can have a fireside chat about this at the retreat.
Yeah, that'd be tight. That'd be tight. We can jump into this. Because, and I want folks to know, like, I think we got to be clear on, we got to bring the conversation back. Because think about this. It's like we got to a point where we're so neutral in the society because we don't want to offend nobody, but we got to have that conversation. Because a man is defined also tribal. So a man in this tribe might not be a man standing by this tribe, right? It might not be a man standing by this tribe. This is why, like, when you look at the world, you can't see the world. When you look at the United States, you can't even see the United States. When you look at California, you can't even see the different multiple cultures and tribes in California alone. I'm about to get into some business shit to make the same argument. And so a man raised in the Midwest who lives on a farm, who's taking care of his farm and is trading products and engaging with the community and managing the community, it's going to be different than a man who's raised in San Francisco. They're both men, but they're going to have different ways they show up based upon the external challenges, right? I don't want to say there's a global man, but there are some global rules to manhood. And the global rules is that you show up for others, you're highly self-disciplined, and you understand about your life as a personal contribution. If you don't understand those basic three, I don't know what to tell you. And I promise you, I talk to guys all the time, and they talk about what they can't get, what's going on, why this person pissed them off, why this ain't right, why this ain't fair, why they ain't made no money over here, what next hustle they want to get to, this chick they about to sleep with, this car they about to get, these new shoes they about to rock, and I ain't heard no man shit once. And man shit, when you do your man shit, you stop having arguments about this bullshit. Man shit raises what you're paying attention to. When you're doing guy shit, you see too much noise. You worried about if he got on Gucci shoes or he has Louis Vuitton shoes. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Can I say one thing?
Go ahead, one thing. Go ahead.
This is my one thing. I will also say that it's very popular to have this man versus woman conversation. And oftentimes women sit on the side of, well, we got our shit together, that's just for them. Your femininity is not housed in your ability to be able to dissect men and tell them what the fuck they're doing wrong and to be able to tear them down, because regardless, we're one. There's no benefit in that. It only keeps us stuck further. And so the humility that's required for you to be able to see somebody who's not perfect and not turn that into like, let me hold him up as the thing about what's going on and what's wrong, you're missing the point. That's not femininity, that's ego. So I just want, because what often happens is that the conversation devolves into this, what they not doing and what do they need to do, that's irrelevant. It's what do you need to be doing? Because just because we happen to be at a point in time where black women are a little further ahead doesn't mean that everything that we do is right, or that we're above any sort of examination of ourselves, or that there's not something that the quality of our conversation can get better. That's all I'm gonna say.
And I think also too, if women don't understand what a man is, I think women can contribute a lot to a young man's manhood. But I also see women engineer a man's gender away. Because they start saying, oh, this gender thing is just overplayed and toxic masculinity, and I want my son to be able whatever he is. That's cool if your son can live in a certain world. Now, if your son shows like he or she is of different sexual preference, then you should cater to that, right? But I'm saying when I'm seeing mothers intentionally, before the child even shows any sign of sexual preference, I'm going to make my child gender neutral. And it's like, yo, those are responsibilities. Male and female is a responsibility. And even if men just grew up with men, we are not gender neutral. In the gay community, that's not gender neutral. Like, it's just one of the things that we gotta understand, like, and we gotta stop thinking that gender is halfway naked or hella muscles or roaring or moving with curvy, smooth movement or talking with a soft voice or your nails and your high heels. That's not gender. And I think we're confusing the fucking conversation, so we don't even know how to like help a woman understand the power of gender and help her. Like, even I think a man should understand the power of a woman. I don't think men know what fucking a woman gender is.
They don't.
So I think that the gender conversation is becoming so distorted. Now we got people talking about gender's bad. I'm like, what the fuck? We haven't even developed. We don't even know what the fuck we're talking about. When you say it's bad, you're talking about your exploitation of expectations around your sex was wrong. And I absolutely agree with you that you should be more of a man. You should be acting more like a man. If you are a man who subscribes to the woman's gender, please understand what that means, though. Don't just stop at the wrist being dipped and talking with a swag. Understand the responsibilities that go along with that and the responsibility that's required to uphold. And I don't think we're just not having a full conversation. We're having a very elementary conversation about men and women. And then when it's used, weaponized to hurt people, then those people push back. Now the whole conversation of gender is wrong. When I think the whole outset of everything is just wrong. It's just wrong. And so to bring structure to it, we got to have a healthy conversation. How does a man show up? What are the responsibilities of being a man? What's the responsibility of being a woman? Not just on our we don't need to be these modern people that say, man, fuck the past. We're going to redefine it. No. Historically, what roles have women dominated in? What roles have men dominated in? How are we showing up in modern day society? How does this modern day society, which is detribing people, how is that affecting our masculinity and femininity, right? How does it play a role in building and stabilizing society? I promise you, if you had a lot of men in East Oakland right now, if you had a lot of men in Chicago right now, if you had a lot of men in any other area, New Orleans right now, where shit's popping off, shit changes. Shit changes. We ain't marching down the street with the church talking about no more violence. We're on the street with our shotguns going, I wish a motherfucker would. There's a point where a man says, we can draw a line here. Like, some things are negotiable, but a man knows when, like in my household even, hey, a lot of chaos happens, right? Is a word for the chaos. It starts with E. But anyway, a lot of chaos in my house is natural, because chaos is natural. Every once in a while, I would be like, that's a line. And I'm talking about far, maybe every 2 or 3 years. Nope, that's a line. And I'm going to protect that line. Because in the end of the day, that's how my family stays strong, because you need structure. This guys talk that free-flowing, no structure, let's all be happy. So y'all hear these old soft-ass dudes talking to you after you leave the nail shop, tell you about how life should be. He gives you a good sexual moment, and you convince, Nana's doing too much. That's too much. But when shit hits the fan, you go to that white man's hospital, you go to that white man's police, you go get that white man's job, and you use that white man's money. God damn it, that too much needs to be done. Going to email now before I start sound like my brother Farrakhan, who I love. That's my partner. Anyway, let me keep it moving. Let's jump into this E-Myth. We got some good shit here. Y'all ready? This is a marketing shit. This is going to get heavy. This might really need to be, at some point, a real-out conversation, because marketing is so abstract, and hopefully we've been priming you this whole class to be abstract thinkers, so you can show up to this abstract dialogue. But this is real business shit here. Business is not brick and mortar. It's a lot of psychological stuff, unless you're just doing a real estate thing. You can buy and sell houses and not really have to deal with people at all, ever. I mean, like, poorly, but not major. But if you're using large groups of people to help you build a system and keep that system running, this is a very abstract conversation we're about to have right now. So with that being said, let's jump into this first slide.
The question then becomes, if my customer doesn't know what he wants, how can I? The answer is, you can't. not unless you know more about him than he does about himself.
So just real fast. This is why focus groups don't work. Because we just can't tell you what they want. They can't. You got to learn more about people than they know about themselves. It's going to be a crazy superpower when you learn the skill. Because you'll learn to look for signs. You'll learn to see people beyond their conversations. You'll be compassionate. You'll be empathic. You'll even allow them to say what they want to say, and you'll silence yourself. But you learn that you have to be able to almost look around the corner for human behavior and be able to almost predict the outcome of people's choices. And I know that seems crazy, but you'll start to see humans actually fall into these clean patterns where they actually fall into things that they commonly do, and you have to know them more than they know themselves. Because most of the time, they don't buy stuff based upon rationality. They buy stuff based upon social realism.
Yeah, I had a meeting today with some black professionals, meaning highly educated, East Coast style black entrepreneur men, right? So I'm thinking, how I'm gonna play it? Fuck it, I'm gonna play it the only way I know how to play it. Hey, let's introduce yourself. What's up? What's up, y'all? My name is Court. And then they all went first, right? So they have this articulate story about where they are, where they went to school, who their companies that they worked with was in an articulate way. Both of them. I go, man, this, that, from the hood, boom, boom. I said shit a couple times, fuck maybe once. After I said that, both of their shoulders relaxed and they was talking like they was hood cats. Right? So because I knew I couldn't get to the meat of really them unless we let's keep this shit 100. So because I need to understand you, I need to learn you so that I know how to pitch, and I gotta disarm that bullshit. So now they're like, so now and they even dropping the N-word now. I'm like, damn, y'all getting hella comfortable. Okay, fuck, keep going. Which that's why I say it's a superpower, because once you understand that superpower and you can get somebody's shoulders to relax and for them to become 100% themselves, that's the real research. That's where you can start taking notes. Like, oh shit, content versus context. That's also another way to really learn. If you say, like we were talking about last week, what do you think about this? You didn't already prime the shit, right? Versus, what do you say? It's like, okay, if you had these two things, which ones would you like the most? Or which one do you like? Which one do you prefer? Now they get a choice and they get to keep it 100. Like, I don't really like that. I like this. And now you can really hear the real. Knowing your customer better than they know themselves, meaning you becoming predictive and accurate in you being predictive with your customers' decisions, that's how you make bread. That's what's almost getting these big companies in trouble, because they're tracking so much data from so many places. They're understanding patterns that humans have never understood before. Like one time, like I think there was a lawsuit going where they started sending this woman pregnancy ads, and she didn't even know she was pregnant. And then she found out she was pregnant and tried to sue him. Like, that shit's crazy in their mind. But that, like, what you start looking for, man, my stomach is bubbling. Let me start looking for this because I got a stomach issue. Man, and as you don't realize that when you're it's not they're watching you. When you're touching all these things that have tracks on them, that allows them to gather data to know you better than you know yourself. And that's powerful. So we got to do the same.
Next one.
Demographics and psychographics are the two essential pillars supporting a successful marketing program. If you know who your customer is, demographics, you can then determine why he buys, psychographics.
So, demographics is what race, age. She could be height. It could be gender, city, income level, right? Class level, college, university. But as we know, based upon the rules of thermodynamics, as people become closer and closer together, and there's a rule called mimetic desires, which is we pick up each other's desires unconsciously. So if I'm around him long enough, I may start saying, "Oh, I want an iPad cover like that," but I don't even know that I received that influence from him because it's such an unconscious adaptation, and so you have to get into psychographics, and you may find that they might be, even though you sell a product that's designed for white women, black boys may like it. It just because it's psychologically, it's perfectly aligned with their values. And so the reason you want to do research around demographics and psychographics, especially in the Bay Area, like white people in the Bay Area are totally different than white people from Walnut Creek. And so if you're selling stuff in the Bay Area, that item that you might be selling for the black people in the Bay Area might be also for white people from Bay Area. It might be for Filipinos from Bay Area because we're so similar, right? Where if you take that same product and maybe say you go to Phoenix, Arizona, the Filipino community is like, we don't rock with that shit. That's not us. So psychographics is, even though they're all in the same demographic groups, there could be a split in psychographics, and that's why we study both of those. Why are they buying it? And you might find that this group buys it because this why, and even though their whys may be different, they interchange. And so when you do your marketing, you know how to just kind of communicate to those individuals. Next one.
Reality only exists in someone's perceptions, attitudes, beliefs, conclusions, whatever you wish to call those positions of the mind from which all expectations arise, and nowhere else. So, the famous dictum that says, find a need and fill it is inaccurate. It should say, find a perceived need and fill it.
So listen, so I think we had to do, we put out a video years back by Dan Kennedy. And and Dan Kennedy brought up this point. He said, whenever you have opportunity, get that money. He said, because if you don't get that money, they'll go out and spend it on things to give them pleasure, but don't make any sense. Rims there's no rationalization for buying rims. There's no rationalization for buying $200, $300, $400 tennis shoes. There's no rationalization for Gucci at all. There's no rationalization for this expensive ass water that somebody brought on my staff. It's water, right? There's no rationalization behind it, right? But if you get into social realism, which is perception, right? Your perception, maybe I brought this water because I'm trying to change my status. Maybe I brought those rims because when I drive down the street, I feel like my status is going to be increased. Maybe I brought a Versace suit because I'm saying I'm really the big dog amongst you guys who are just wearing suits from Macy's, right? When you're in business, it's not about seeing human beings. It's not about, stop playing the right and wrong game and the ultimate truth game. Oh, that's not the truth. This is the real truth. That's right. That's wrong. That is the most poorest way to navigate human behavior.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to learn how to see that humans have different behavior for different motivations, and you don't always need to understand why. It may be something historical in their trauma, in their past. You just don't understand why it came into existence. But today, it just doesn't match with common logic, but it's what drives them. If you look at how much money young people spend in the hip-hop culture, most of that shit don't even make sense. It's no rationalization behind it. So if you're in business, don't sell your products and services to be the ultimate champion of truth. Align with people's desires. Otherwise, you can actually become the friction to your customer. So let's say the customer comes in to get a cake. I want a good tasting cake. And let's say my experience, the customers you're selling to loves apple pies from McDonald's. So they don't have fine-tuned taste buds, but they have a certain tuned taste bud. And you walk in there and you give them this high-quality, low-sugar, well-prepared French cake. Now, to a lot of high-end chefs, they may applaud you. When they get home with their family and say happy birthday, cut that shit open, they'll be like, what is this shit? They sprinkling this powdered sugar on top of your cake. And in the end, even though you are right, even though yours reduces diabetes, although yours only put on no more than 2 pounds maximum could put on if they ate it almost every day for a week, you created friction to the customer. So you're going to have to realize whatever business you're in, you have to be comfortable aligning with their truths, not your truth. So those who are super truthful, oh, this is what I believe in, this is what it stands for, this is what people need. No, it's what they want.
And your belief is bullshit. It's perception. It's relative. any belief you have that you're 100% convinced is true, there's an argument somewhere that can completely refute it.
Absolutely
completely
correct.
refute it.
And you're still right. They're right and you're right.
So it doesn't it doesn't mean you don't have that belief. It's just having that information, that knowledge to know I choose to believe this, but it's my choice. So how do you use that information in business? You create the perception. It's not a lot of folks we talk to and folks in this class still have that if we build it, they will come kind of mentality. That shit is false. If you build it and you don't create a perceived need for it, it's just gonna sit there. It's gonna sit there. So you gotta create you gotta create perception. Now if like you say, and it can be anything. Some companies use reasons or they use different micro belief systems to justify it. So if I say, man, I need to get an education, I need to learn how to be better in business. And you say, hey, yo, well, Alameda Community College, you got classes in business over there. And then Haas School of Business has the same classes, but they charging you $60,000, $70,000 a year. Why do even people go there? It's because there's micro reasons. Well, if I have a degree from here, the top companies look to us first. The alumni group in Cal Berkeley is amazing because it's geniuses that's all went through, and you can tap into the alumni all the way into the There's all these little reasons which bullshit. I know people who graduated from Cal Berkeley who don't talk to nobody from the past and don't got a good job. But it's the perception of it. As a entrepreneur marketer, your job is to create these perceptions.
I remember a long time ago, I was talking to Shakina about training, and this is when she was on her specialty hype. It has to be this way, and it has to be, then you got to get to that muscle and the other. And I said, let me ask you a question. Who makes more money, you or 24-Hour Fitness? I understand you. I understand you're better, smarter than them people, but I bet you they make more money than you. At some point, are we in business, or are we championing a movement? Can I be very clear? Because sometimes we are championing our movement and championing ourselves right out of business. At the end of the day, you got to meet people where they at. And then if you want to take them somewhere, you can take them through baby steps. But what you can't do is become a righteous preacher to your customer. What your customer, even I remember I asked a bishop, this big bishop, I said, hey, man, why y'all be teaching them all weak lessons on Sundays? He said, because the average person that shows up at church has no more than a 4th grade reading level. And if I go to the level that I can actually teach from, my church would be empty. Right? That's a reality of life. Rick Ross is charging $25,000 for an online business course per person, $25,000. And people are going to pay it because it's Rick Ross. But hey, dog, let's be real. That's business. Once you understand. And here's the thing. Is he wrong for charging? No. Because if somebody's willing to pay it, if somebody's that damn, that's the reality of the world. Like, business is not about about the right and wrongs. The reality is that people spend money for more dumb shit than a little bit.
I've paid that shit.
I bet you everybody listen to my voice has spent money on some dumb shit this week and last week and the week before. And some of us spent thousands, if hundreds of thousands on stupid shit. Yeah. So that no one, like I said, he without sin cast the first stone. All you motherfuckers put your pebbles down.
Hey, today I had one of my employees, we had to make a pivot on a mistake. And I'm trying to explain how to pivot. And the pivot is about 80% of what it was supposed to look like. And so my employee was like, I hate doing this. I hate it. Like, I hate it. Steve Jobs says you paint the other side of the fence so no one sees, just because you painted it. I'm like, man, I told you that. Like, I know that quote. I gave it to you, but we don't have the option for that. Yeah, but that's not how we deliver the customer. That's not how, like, we don't, like, he's preaching to me about my company, about how we supposed to show up to, I'm like, bro, I get it, but right now, do you have a better solution than this? No. Then this is what it is. And the customer will not know the difference. I know, but it's not about the customer. It's about how I feel. If you don't shut the fuck up and let's get to finish it. But a lot of times it's our own self-righteousness. It's in our own self-righteousness that we believe a certain thing. Once we adopt a belief, the cold part about it is I was sort of giggling inside is because I got him so gung-ho on the belief that I taught him.
Yeah, but you know what though?
And I had to turn him like, no, like this is.
But it's a difference. So your self-righteousness is you're right, but the delivery's wrong because he needs to be self-righteous because that's like people who work for Apple are super self-righteous. So he's employed, but they're self-righteous to Apple's righteousness, not the world's righteousness. You're their creator of all reality. So you should have came up with another rule. Sounds so crazy. Reality doesn't exist for most human beings. Let me just be straight. There's no such thing. Let's just cut this out. So you're really a God in your world. Lowercase God for those who get offended. I don't want to hear nobody, no Christians, leave me alone. You're God in your world. So if God changes the rules, human beings either need a story to help us deal with uncertainty or something's unpredictable or unpredictable changes, right? But that same commitment is how his loyalty is showing up. That's just it's a negative side of the positive loyalty you benefit from.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, what I would have did different was I would have had to sit down and master a plan on how do I reshape this so he feels like the story he holds on to is not being compromised, that it's a new branch of the same story that has the same outcome, that we may just get there differently, right? But it's some way of making an argument. Because if you say somebody like, hey, let's it didn't come in with white scenes, but this customer don't even know about the white scenes. And he's like, but the white scenes matter to me. If he had that flexibility that you had, you don't want him to implement that on a lower level on a day-to-day work. Because when something goes bad, he'd be like, oh, fuck that shit. And then all of a sudden, one day you'd be like, dude, what's this shit? You'd be like, he's like, well, you said sometimes don't matter. I know this motherfucker right here. You say you didn't even like him. You're like, but dude, he just paid me $1 million for, what the fuck wrong with you? Oh, I didn't know that. I thought y'all wasn't cool. You don't want him making that interpretation. You want him to treat everything like, the phone is ready, sir. Right? And in the end, you'd be like, yeah, because phones are next to God. Yes, it is, sir. Right? So in the end, you're the God. Mm-hmm. He can't be a God. If he becomes a God, if he makes those calls at on, you ain't gonna like that. So in a sense, he's not in a position. You're the person, yeah. So you have to make those pivots.
Create a new perception.
New perception.
Yeah.
I said you have to alter perception. Right.
I feel that.
Yeah. Next one.
Those perceptions are at the heart of your customer's decision-making process.
Yeah.
See how that's simpatico?
Yeah.
And if you know his demographics, you can understand what those perceptions are and then figure out what you must do to satisfy them and the expectations they produce.
So real quick too, the way you learn a lot about your customer. So I call this the Shakina shut the fuck up rule. So Shakina, when she first joined us, she was Chetty Cathy. Like she just wouldn't stop. It was like living in Seattle during rainy season. Just won't stop. And she would talk so much. And ultimately, what I learned over the years, but the original concept, there was a class, this is the second year of fight. This is the so-called mean version of me. That straight off my mentor back. And what I said in class was, Shakina, can you just shut the fuck up? Right, that's how class went. But let me go deeper. If you are suffering from narcissism or ego or have a huge ego, you are horrible at marketing. Because you're too busy trying to prove yourself instead of listening. You're not being Sherlock Holmes. You've been a used car salesman. Big difference. Where you gain knowledge about your customer is you probe your customers to extract so much information. You know their favorite color, where they go, what they do in their free time, what's their favorite party, what's their favorite color shoes, what's their favorite, what they do at nighttime, what they do in the morning, what they do if they go to games, where do they sit at the game, what's the rules of how they eat their food, what kind of people. Once you learn that, and you start seeing, oh, all my customers eat pizza, all my customers eat a certain kind of pizza, where do you guys go? Oh, you guys go to the same pizza restaurant? Then you go look at their marketing. And you will see they're literally talking to your customer a certain way. You realize, oh, why do you guys all use red? Oh, because this person really responds well to red? Got you. So maybe I can accent red on my next marketing material. And let me test that. Now, here's the thing. You test it and you find out red sucked. They actually like green. But you probed it and you finally got it. So now you got it where you're pushing out these green flyers. Great response. And then about 3 months later, no one gives a fuck about these green flyers anymore because you thought marketing is discovering clients one time. It's a continuous, everyday, as long as your business is open, you are probing people.
Also, those things can start to become signals, beacons for your customers. Once you figure it out, they can become beacons. You guys know the gentrification fence, right? I don't even have to describe it. You know the gentrification fence. It's become its own brand by itself. Move that motherfucking thing sideways, and now it attracts a certain demographic of people to come in and buy. So why? Who did that? Who started it? Who was the first one? All of that information, understanding why that is attractive. Who knows? It could have been fucking in a magazine somewhere 6, 7, 8 years ago, and all of a sudden people start jumping on it at the same time. Who knows? But once you understand your customer, you can use different signals and beacons that can be a call out to them to come to you.
And so, yeah, you study. You test. You investigate. You have conversation. You know, hey, how's your day? Oh, how's your son doing? What's he been up to? Oh, did y'all go somewhere this weekend? Where'd you go? Oh man, right. What kind of car you drive down there? You drive it. Okay, you drive that kind of car. Oh, okay. Is it your car or did you rent it? Oh, I usually rent from Hertz. Where do you rent from? Oh, you rent from them too? Okay. You see what I'm doing? I'm probing your ass out to death. I'm not going to do like, hey, I got a probe. You got about 10 minutes. I need to ask you some technical questions. Now, in some cases, you got to send out, if you don't have customer touch points like that, you may have to send out surveys. The worst surveys I ever see is, hey, you got 10 minutes? Who are you talking to? What you gonna give me for free? Right? Like, if you're gonna ask customers for a strong amount of time, you have to give them something. That's what it is. Otherwise, you can probe them. But somehow, you're going to have to extract information, watch your customers, observe your customers, know your customers so well that you would know that if it rains tomorrow, you almost know what they're going to do. If the local sport teams win tomorrow, you know exactly what that customer is going to do. And when you trust me, if you observe them and you pay attention long enough, you'll see it. You'll know it. It's like you ever seen an old married couple and that wife knows her husband like nobody else? He could damn near wake up and the coffee's in his hand. He's like, well, thank you, right? And it's already got the perfect cream sugar mixture already done because she observed him so much she could look around the corner and know his next move, right? And so you have to treat your customers just like that.
Hey, I was at the gym, I think for 2 months straight. It looked like I was trying to get at every female in the gym. Every female that was working out next to me, every woman, hey, can I ask you a question? Yeah. Why'd you buy those pants, those workout pants? Why? How much you spend on them? Like, give me some info. So you like the logo, big or small? What about elasticity? Like, and so I'm asking. So then I start getting them really comfortable. But okay, and then what? Are you trying to start your own brand or something? Like, yes, but just keep talking regular. Like, so how much you spending on fucking Lululemon? You spent that much on some Lulu? Why? Why'd you buy those over that? Well, and and I've gathered like 120 different viewpoints from different cultures, different people, to try to access enough game to just give me a little bit of something. How do I market this? Would you buy, like, before they found out that I was doing my own shit, most of the time I'm like, so what would make you buy just a random brand that you saw advertising for? What would make you buy? Well, if this and they said this and that, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean it's true. I'm just gathering intel. Like, if you are thinking about starting something, best way, just jump out there and start asking. If you already have something, best way, get out your comfort zone, away from your space where you sell, and just ask random people about it like you don't even have it. And that way you can get real truthful or at least their version of the truth information, and you can start gathering, and it becomes kind of a bubble, and it can dictate and change what you decide to design or colorways you go with or whatever.
And let me share this too. Court is almost like an introvert. You're around him, he's real cool, real mellow, and real quiet. I can promise you at some point that was uncomfortable for him. But he'll tell you the more you keep doing it, it gets easier and easier and easier. So for many of you guys, when you guys go out there to ask questions, you will get this almost knot in your chest. Push past it. And over time, it gets, before you know, you're on a roll, right? When I was a kid, I used to do the, go door to door and get the signatures for petitions. And you get like 50 cents a signature. And I would smoke all my partners. Because they were like timid. I was timid too, but I like that money. So I kept pushing myself. And after a while, by the third day, oh man, I'm rolling. Hey, excuse me, doing holler at you real quick. Let me talk to you. How you gonna just walk away from me? Right? It's like it's a different energy. But when you first start, the first day, you're like, hey, excuse me. Okay, well, fine. You wanna talk to me then? Fuck you too then. Right? And it's like that's not because your brain gonna add meaning and all that stuff. So just know that's solid advice that is so simple and often overlooked. And why we often avoid that space because of the friction and discomfort of asking strangers questions. But when you get into that rhythm, you'll realize, oh, this shit is smooth. And you might even find you an investor. Just because you're showing a deeper degree of research, because people can tell the difference between people are faking it and people are serious about it. But yeah, that's tight. That's tight. Next one.
Women of a certain age, with a certain amount of education, with a certain size family, living in a certain geography, buy for very specific psychographic reasons. Those unconsciously held reasons will be different from another group of women of a different age and marital status, with a different educational background, living in a different part of the country.
So this is one of the very reasons the COVID communication sucked. Because they tried to talk to everybody as if everybody was middle-class white people. All the marketing when it first came out, all the communication was, why don't you believe in science? Did you not hear what Dr. Fauci said? And They didn't realize that in California, there's so many micro groups that have different beliefs. It's ridiculous. You can never say all black people, all white people, all Asian people, there's no such thing. That is an ignorance that we possess as human beings. Mm-hmm. We want to summarize the world into our understanding. Lean not on your own understanding. You cannot understand the world around you. It is not possible. Matter of fact, between entropy, I know this is entropy, which is the world will always fall towards chaos. Between that and catalyst, you can't understand the world around you. Because bad sometimes is good, and good is sometimes bad. And chaos is normal, but the human brain lies to ourselves to tell ourselves that that order is normal. And then in addition to that, the variation of human beings is so broad that we try to simulate them because we watch television. When we don't realize people are extremely different. And most people who don't sell, if you have a job, that's invisible to you because you're not at the front line selling something. But those of us who have to sell a product to the market, we will tell you that even neighborhoods are different.
Also, too, is understanding the idea of sometimes bad is good, good is bad. Data, you can grab a whole bunch of data that says your target or your demographic or the people who you buy are this, and it can make you feel like you want to change to them, but a lot of times they fuck with you because of who you are. You look at hip hop music. Hip hop, they was rapping about our neighborhoods, our gangs, our problems, our issues, all the shit that we was facing in the hood. And the biggest consumer of hip hop music became the white folks.
Yeah.
White kids in great neighborhoods who lived good life. So the propensity could be, damn, let's commercialize this more, let's cheese it up a little bit. But no, it was entertainment. It was amazing. Like, what the fuck? There's another world in the city that I live in. There's a part that lives like this. I'm intrigued and I'm blown away by it. So doesn't mean, like, you still have to determine, what does this data mean and what should I do with it? Because it's not 1 + 2 = 3, hardly ever in this game. It could be 1 + 2 = 48N.
Yeah. Oh my God. Matter of fact, okay, let me help you out. Let me help you wrap your mind around what he just said. Public Enemy, which was Fight the Power, pro-black, Nation of Islam extended music, was mainly supported by white people. What rationale supports that? Many of y'all sitting in your chair going, think about this. Pro-black, don't trust him. The white man's the devil music was mostly supported by white people. A lot of your popular songs that uses the N-word is mostly purchased by white people. Conservative white people love gangster hip hop. Now, what rationalization of business would that fit in? You get. This is why your research is necessary. You can't just say, "Oh, this makes sense in a private room," because I can tell you, most people would not go in front of a group of white people and be like, "Yo, listen here, devils. We about to fight the power up in this motherfucker, and we don't trust it. You understand me? And we about to come up and we want to rebuild our shit because Farrakhan said we gotta get our shit together." Y'all know goddamn well they'd be like, security. But when it comes to selling music, white kids are the most dominant presence. I just want y'all to wrap your mind around that so you can see how this so-called peer rationalization that we engage in daily is betraying you in understanding the market, the way the market works.
Hey, Too Short had to come out and apologize to the world because he had favorably said some favorable things toward light-skinned girls. When he been saying biatch for the last 40 years, talking about all sorts of crazy shit he done to women, and nobody said anything bad to him about in the song.
You got that's how the world is.
But in the interview, he says, "I like light-skinned girls," and it was pandemonium. Weird. You understand?
Like, why do you even care who Too Short likes? I'm sure. I don't understand that one. Anyway, let's keep it moving. But you guys, wrap your mind around these 2 points we just made. How hip-hop is showing you how clear rationalization is not necessarily how business works. It's based upon social realism, not reality itself. And so you have to understand business is about, when you're making decisions with your business and your money and how business is moving, you have to understand how reality is going to play out. So you have to master reality, but you also have to be able to still observe social realism and see how they both are playing a role. So trends that are happening in society may shift your business. Politics can shift your business. Tragedy can shift your business. War can shift your business. Anything that causes, look, what they say is, contrast creates change. Any type of cultural contrast that happens in society will have impact on your business.
Are you beginning to get a sense of the complexity of this business called marketing? I hope so. Because until you do, until you begin to take it seriously, until you give it the earnest attention it demands, your prototype will continue to be the only thing it could hope to be under the circumstances, a crapshoot.
So, marketing is business. No customers, no business. No customers, no business. Your job is to get customers keep coming through that door and make those numbers increase. Your job is to make the customers you already have spend more money. And your job is to keep the customers you gained. If you don't have that, there is no business. This is why we say at the end of the day, you don't own a camera store, you're a marketing company that sells cameras. You don't own a gym, you're a marketing company that sells physical health. If you don't, no, actually you sell self-esteem and status, right? If you don't understand what you're selling, and you don't understand how to show up to that, and you don't know how to shape people's perception and align with people's needs, if you don't know how to even shape marketing within your company, which is why are we here and why do we show up and what keeps us here and what do we stand for, then you're not doing business. And this is so marketing is not and you can't take it lightly. Marketing is not something that you just do. This is what I see with marketing all the time. People think marketing is like decorating. I want some cute flyers, a cute brochure, and a cute website. And then I'm done for another 5 or 6 years. And then that's kind of getting ugly and old. I want to refresh my shit. No, marketing is the website may be sitting in a location at a permanent site, but a website should be always being worked, always being updated, always listening to people going, that language doesn't work. Always revisiting your language. Always your logo. But they said the way you shape social realism is by giving something a name and a logo, and it's real. Some of y'all go to 99-cent logo and think y'all doing business. That's how you see your business? Your logo requires care, thought, and energy. Mm-hmm. Not your cousin, not your nephew, not your niece. Care, thought, and energy. Mm-hmm. And your marketing is a continuous engagement because, okay, let me help y'all. I'm in my 50s now. Josh, I'm in my 50s. I know you don't accept it. Black don't crack. We'll talk about this offline. The customers of my 20s and 30s don't even exist no more. If I still held on to the values of my 20s and 30s, I would have been out of business by the time I hit my mid-30s. My customers of my 40s are already gone. I mean, my customers of my 50s. Because every decade, the customers that I knew have changed. Mm-hmm. Even if you kept the same customers, they get older. The new generation ain't the same as the last generation. There's some similarities, but there's many differences. I might have to go talk, like right now, if I want to talk to somebody in 19 and 20, Drake might not work right now. Mm-hmm. But Drake worked for somebody who's 30 who is 20 or whatever. You know, it's that kind of, I might be off in numbers, but you guys get the point.
It's real.
Right? The numbers, so if you want to say, hey, they may be calling Drake an OG now. Because as they make these changes, if I'm trying to sell to that group of people, I got to be totally aware of what moves them. One group, like when I was growing up, you would have gave me slime, I would have threw it in the garbage can. When my son was growing up, you give him slime, he would have bought more products. It's that variation of just paying attention to people. So if you're not constantly moving in your marketing, the people will move right past you. Mm-hmm. You'll be a hype cycle. So marketing is something you have to take very, very, and you can't work on it when you want to. Let's keep going because it's going to get into that. Keep going, next one.
Inquiry, the active solicitation of specific information, and controlled experimentation replaced the guessing, blind hope, and feverish busy work that preceded them. Innovation, quantification, and orchestration became the driving forces behind their efforts.
So a lot of times with people is that we start businesses and we don't really inquire about our customers. We go out and we because once again we're egotistical, we're narcissists, and we're scared of people. We go create something and we think that's gonna be tight for other people, and we put it in front of their face and we hope that they'll come and get it. Mm-mm. And we don't realize that at the end of the day, that's your limitation, yourself. You don't know people. And so if you're not listening, if you're not doing experimentations, if you're not in constant engagement with customers, then you're just blindly throwing stuff in their face, hoping they'll buy it. And this is why your business does this.
Yeah, you cannot be surprised or devastated if nobody buys your product. Like if you're devastated if you caught an L, a lot of times that goes with not doing enough market research, not doing enough research. That shit happens, of course, but doing your due diligence and having a low enough ego to say, all right, look, I'm servicing the community. Why'd you make that good vibe sweater? I made it for me, shit, because I like purple, I like rainbows, and I like the word good vibes. So I designed it for me. Now you're playing the Russian roulette game, the luck game of hoping that there's some other people out there that likes that shit too. And as a business, if you're trying to create something consistent and over time, that's a tough game to play, because making shit just because you like it, like again, we talked about a little bit. A and B is you might be cool in 2015. You may be the coolest motherfucker in the room, but you get old too. Your eyesight goes, your hearing goes, and all those micro details that you used to see that made you cool, you're just you're a little bit off. And now what you think is cool, nobody gives a fuck no more. So you got to be constantly having a feedback loop with your customers, with potential customers, with other people to say, hey, what do you think about this? Ah, shit, or I don't like it. The whole I make it for me model,
Sucks.
it sucks, it's terrible, and you become a starving artist. Also, the whole I'm just gonna build this shit and do my best work and just hope for the best. Like that's what a lot of us get caught up in, and we gotta break free of that. If we're in business, that means you're serving others. You're serving other people.
Trying to sell jeans with creases in them. Trying to sell clean ass khakis with clean ass creases. Anyway, listen. Here's a self-test. Present whatever you've just built to somebody. If they ask you, why do you like this, and your only response is, because you're that person. If I say to Shabisha, why you choose that red? Why not another red? Well, because my mother said, I always like this. Yep, you're that person. You're fucking up. If you said, hey, I've done market research, and the red that came back most of the time was this, and you just keep referring to the market as I talk about your designs, okay, now you're doing business. See, it doesn't mean that you can't influence or you can't impact. For example, I was looking at Giannis, was watching a basketball game, and he had on these pink, almost salmon-colored tennis shoes. There's nowhere in the world I would sell that shit. I mean, I would make that shit. But I wouldn't be surprised that all the kids are rocking that shit. But that shit was like so outside of my comfort zone, right? But if I was running a shoe company, I'm sure I would produce a shoe like that. Why? Because I'm not gonna stick to what I like. I like being in the shoe industry. If I like something strong enough, then I make it for me and my partners and people around me. But if I want to sell something, it doesn't mean that I would not, okay, if people start making shoes that was hurting people's feet and it's unethical, but they were selling strong, I'm not getting in that game. I'm playing the long game. Or if people start selling a shoe that was just totally against my brand, I'm not, because at the end of the day, you have to say, these are the limits of my brand. So there's some things you just don't do, right? Let's go back to Shakina in the gym. If she's a trainer, she might not be able to run a gym like Planet Fitness, because I will kill her off tomorrow. Because Planet Fitness is just like, yo, come in here, pay $10, and don't be picking on people because they don't like because their body's not cool, right? So you're like, okay, cool, that's their thing. But Planet Fitness also can't get like Shakina, where they start bringing in top-end $300, $400 specialists to come train. That's not your market, right? So you have to be very clear on what's your market and what are your limitations and what do you say yes and no to. But you also know how to jump in those trends while still staying true to your brand. So if Adidas decided to make those same shoes, they're going to make them, but they're going to be Adidas style. But they're going to also pay attention to the market. So there's a marriage. There's not just, you're not prostituting the market. You're marrying the market. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to tell me that everything you decided because your mama said, my daddy said, my cousin said, I like it. I don't know. Well, fine, you don't have to like it. I like it. If you say shit like that, you're not in business.
Yo, here's another one too that I see a lot is that you ask, you ask about a product, and they say, well, I'm going to force the market and change the market to see things my way. You heard the shit.
Oh, that shit is so common.
So they
Especially
so,
activists.
So we have this audacity, right? We have this this ego that says our product is so fucking raw that we're gonna shape and we're gonna literally move the market one time with our product. Like it doesn't exist, and what ends up happening is it falls on deaf ear, it falls on no ears, because you can't force nobody to fuck with you. You cannot force nobody to fuck with your product. You have to enter in the game. Like some people get disillusioned by thinking that has happened, but really what happened was they knew the market better than they knew themselves. So although that product didn't exist, they had did so much research and understood the market so well that was just the next logical step in what was to come. They didn't force shit. It's, oh shit, I need that. There's a difference. So us black folks, we got to stop that bullshit. If we think we can change an industry, or like some people, they do the equivalent of, you know what? Check out my CD. I'm going back to see. I got CDs. And you're like, bro, we don't do CDs no more. Yeah, but I'm making the industry go back to CDs. It's over with CDs, bro. Like we do the equivalent of that sometimes for our business, and we got to understand movements, industries we're like minute peons compared to the industry. So we gotta get that shit out of our head.
Next one.
An age in which your customer is deluged by so many products and promises that he becomes swamped in confusion and indecision. The challenge of our age is to learn our customer's language and then to speak that language clearly and well so that your voice can be heard above the din. Because if your customer doesn't hear you, he'll pass you by.
Your customers are going to read a lot of words. Customers are not going to be able to pay attention to a lot of noise, meaning a whole bunch of images. You know, the worst flyers I've ever seen in my life is when you see a party flyer, they throw hella pictures on one flyer. Because everybody got to be acknowledged, right? Simplicity is what works in a world of noise. Simplicity is what works in a world of noise. Number two, human beings are tribal. We are tribal. Not tribe in oppression like controlling black folks or indigenous people or Jewish people, not that kind of tribe. We're tribal, meaning that we cling to certain circles. Certain circles, you got to learn the language of the people you're trying to sell to. You got to know context and content on how to talk to certain people. You got to develop a language, a group of words, things you do and don't say to them. Because at the end of the day, like if you try and sell something Midwest and you come off with some old liberalism, what's wrong with America, independence type of thinking, you may lose all your customers and they need your product. They love your product, but they won't fuck with your product. You've seen it happen before where people just say, I don't like what this stands for, I'm out. I'm going back to where I'm comfortable. Look, people, for them to change their habits, it takes a lot of energy. That's one. Two, people are distracted by so many things calling for their attention. Three, Amazon. Amazon is taking away that my brand is the only one. So that's why relationships are so important. If you're building relationships with people and you have this connection and you're able to talk a language, even if the relationship doesn't mean that you have to call everybody up on the phone, but your product almost says, I know you, I see you, I value you, then all of a sudden you'll be surprised how people will stop going to Amazon and just go ahead and spend that money with you.
Real quick, so just looking at this water, it says aqua. The name is Pana, and it has Tuscany under that. Off top, it says, damn, this is just some expensive shit. Then it says in the top right corner, served in the best restaurants. So it's also priming you some more, like, damn, so this is served in the best restaurants. On the back, it says, a water that's worth savoring. And it has the year the fucking that it started 1564. Damn, they've been doing water for 400 years. They know they water. Like, so it's the, so why would somebody pay extra more when you can just go get a bottle of water from Walmart? Like you can get 15 for $7.99.
Crystal Geyser.
Crystal Geyser, the straight up Crystal Geyser, same damn shit, right? It's understanding your demographic. This isn't for them. It's for somebody who, in their mind, wants the best. And they want that restaurant. I want stuff served in the best restaurants. It's for them. It's not for you. And then we aspire to be it. Like, damn, like, look at that. If they drink that kind of water, then their lifestyle must reflect that. It is such a, like, and it's such a long-term learning game. It's almost like we'll live out our lifetimes and never never master the shit. Sometimes we get ideas, or we get move our needle closer, or we get more of an impact, or we understand more. But it's forever learning in terms of understanding how to do this.
Yeah, and by the way, it says serving the best restaurants. You can almost see the commercial. They're going to take you back to that restaurant experience that was so amazing. So then when you drink this water, your emotions are at the restaurant, even though you're drinking water. So at the end of the day, it's like, I want to repeat that. When you're at home and you want to have that same catered experience, when you drink my water, I want to make you feel like you're having that same experience. So now you associate this water with an experience, and no longer it's just water, it's an experience you're selling. And if you can sell experience, that will lock you. See, Amazon sells water. They sell experience. That's marketing. That's amazing marketing, right? So this is why, like, when you're on Amazon, they just pushing product at you. Pushing product at you. When Ralph Lauren hits me up, they're selling culture to me. Hey, you want to wear Ralph Lauren? Because, when you rock this, you're part of this culture here. Adidas and Puma, you're part of this culture here, right? Everybody's telling you you're joining this circle. And we're missing the point. Like, marketing is, you're having this human-to-human connection to your product and service that helps to define this definition of who they see themselves as. Nobody's honest about who they are, and they're honest about the world. So you have to lock into whatever that perception is. Going back to the perception. Next one.
Unless you understand what needs to be done, unless you understand the essential importance of marketing to your prototype, unless you understand that your customer is far less rational in his convictions and expectations than you had ever imagined, unless you understand that your prototype is your product, all the how to do it in the world won't make a bit of difference to you.
So let's read that slower, because you got to separate those. Just I want to highlight, less you understand. So less you understand what?
Unless you understand what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. Unless you understand the essential importance of marketing
So you
to
have
your
to understand.
prototype.
Okay, y'all in this class for business, you want to do business, you have to know what needs to be done. You have to understand, you absolutely have to understand marketing. Keep going.
Unless you understand that your customer is far less rational in his convictions and expectations.
So with all this knowledge you're gaining from all these books, don't go out there champion, we just said that, don't go out there champion super rationality, because that's not the world is not rational. Don't even waste your time having those long ass conversations about, this is stupid, I don't understand. It will destroy your internal morale. All these customers are so stupid. No, they're not stupid. They're customers. That's what the fuck they do. If they think rims with their name engraved on it is worth another $10,000, they're customers. Keep going.
Unless you understand that your prototype is your product.
So your product is not the product, like I just said. Experience, not water. Keep going.
All the how to do it in the world won't make a bit of difference to you.
So all the how-to books, all the work you're doing, all the checking the boxes like you do when you're in your corporate job, won't sell your products. It just won't. It won't. In order to sell your products, you got to get into some psychological shit.
And know this, a lot of times you may do all this research and think you know, and do your best work, due diligence, everything, and check all the boxes in terms of doing your research, and you put your stuff out in the world, and the feedback you get is completely opposite. And that's okay. That's cool. You just learn to make those adjustments and shifts. Like, who was it? Not Aretha Franklin, starts with a P. Patti LaBelle. Patti LaBelle made music for our people. When she got out there to them shows, guess who was in the audience? The LGBT community and transgender community was thick out in that motherfucker. So guess what she did? Oh, okay, cool. Now I know. So she catered to them more, became more elaborate in her outfits and her hairs and her dress, so that she knew who was coming to her shows. It completely pivoted to her original idea of who her demographic was. And that, like, it's okay. It's about you making the proper adjustments and tweaking along the way. You never know. You never know what the fuck is going to happen until you do it. A lot of times we sit behind computers and ideas and like, oh, what I'm about to do, or we just keep accumulating knowledge, thinking that one day we're going to gather all the knowledge that then we can press the button. It's going to be successful on that first at bat. Fuck no. What's going to happen is you're going to fail a little bit, and you're going to learn from that failure. You extract that learning and try it again. And you just keep playing that game to where it goes from failures to an excellent product, and you got a stream of income.
You know, I'm gonna share a real story. When I was in my 20s, you spin me right round, baby, right round. That song, what's that song? You spin me right round, baby, right round. Remember that song? There's a famous song, rock song, and there's a transgender dude. He was, you know, like he was a man who purposely looked trans, like he owned his transgender space, right? But I loved his album. His album was fire. So I was like, I'm gonna go to this concert. Me and my boys, we went to the concert. There was no transgenders there. But one of the coldest, fired up, hyped ass concerts ever. The bass was killing. The music was so that the floor was like they was just doing this, bouncing, right? Like if you stood still, you're gonna be bouncing. And like we bought all of his music, but at that time I wasn't rocking with transgenders. But like you don't have to align with people's politics, beliefs, whatever. If you love their product and their service, we're playing this race card too much. We have to realize that humans are not that rigid.
Man,
we're just not that fucking rigid.
Understand that.
You gonna have a racist dude buy all your products, and you got to know that. You guys just got to know that. That's the game you in. Like business is a different conversation than when once products start moving, the conversation changes. But if products are not moving, I mean, I don't watch the NFL because I couldn't deal with all the racist communication that came from Kaepernick. It just became too much for me. But there's hell of a lot of people still watching the NFL, and they're openly racist. But at the end of the day, people love football. And then, like, you know, you guys gotta get the balance of like the way the world really works in business. And when you start understanding that complexity, you'll know where to take your stand and where to fight at and where not to fight at. What makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Who's your ally may be people who wouldn't fuck with you personally.
Hey, I'm gonna tell another story, and this is gonna be awkward, but for real, it drives your point home so well. So, up until about 3 years ago, R. Kelly would come to the town every year to perform, Oakland Coliseum. And that week, I was part of this little hoop crew that he'd come and we all hoop together. And it'd be him and all his roadies and security and all that against my partner, my partners. And I was one of the players in that little group that he trusted, right? Every year. We're not talking Aaliyah days. We're talking 3 years ago. Everybody knew R. Kelly's story. Everybody knew all the R. Kelly shit. Hey, and then every time, hey, yo, here's some tickets to the show. I got you, come through. We walk in, backstage, Oakland Coliseum. I'd stand on that stage and see a sea of women. There's nothing but women in there, packed. And I'd be perplexed in my mind sometimes, like, don't y'all, like, so all y'all know about the shit, but it will be full of women because the attachment to his product, his music, was so strong that even women bypassed the right and wrong in their brain to come show up to the concert. Now, after the show came out, the documentary about surviving R. Kelly came out, all that collapsed, right? All that collapsed. No more shows, all that shit was bad. But it still perplexed me that business and marketing and products and music is so strong that a woman will bypass those right and wrong rules to show up.
Yeah, it's crazy shit. Keep going.
The first question you must ask then is, who are they? Who are my customers specifically? What is their demographic profile?
So let me say something real quick. If you're judgmental, this is going to suck. If you have the mental distortion of what people should do, this is not going to work too well for you. Let me share this with you. You cannot possibly understand where people are coming from. It's easy to sit on a pedestal and say R. Kelly's wrong. But have you been molested as a little boy for some amount of years? Maybe you look at R. Kelly differently, right? I'm not justifying a 14-year-old, not by no means. But maybe if you lived in a place where a 14-year-old was still illegal, you wouldn't see the same also.
It's like 40 states.
40 states, yeah.
Something like that.
So what I'm arguing, what I'm challenging is that people are such a variation of experiences, and something you might see as stupid actually kept them from dying, or got them by, or helped them cope. It's not for you to play God with other people's lives. It's better for you to understand other people, but don't play God with other people's lives. And if you're in business, the more you practice being empathic, caring, and loving, this goes back to some of that Jesus talk. If you walk around trying to figure out how to show up for people as opposed to judge people, you'll be a great business person. The problem with most of us is that we're too judgmental and we're too much at war with everybody around us who are different. Seek out similarity, not differences. There's another argument that says America right now, because we haven't fought a war in a long time, we're warring internally. And the language of spotting each other's differences is language you use during war. We're not language of peace is talking about similarities. Businesses know to not engage in conversations of differences. Don't spend all that time with that. What I mean by differences in a way of demonizing them. Try to find similarities and gain understanding of differences. So if somebody's different from you, I want to know why. I want to hear more about it. Reserve your judgment. And it doesn't mean that you won't have a judgment. Just we're over judging. We're so judgmental. We can't see a customer because we look at a customer and the first thing our brain goes, well, they should be like this. So I'm gonna judge them. We don't realize we create a bias in our judgment. You have to learn how to be more curious. Stop trying to be right. Stop trying to expand your view of the world. First, hear the view, because many of us have a secluded view of the world. We don't have a rich, inclusive view of the world. If you listen to a lot of people and then you have a view of the world, hey, let it be what it be. Many of us are isolated amongst 2 or 3 people who are just talking to each other every day and thinking about this is what's wrong with the whole world. 3 people are going to tell you what's wrong with 8 billion people.
That shit happens all
the fucking time.
And you just listen.
And then y'all go into business and y'all sitting in the office talking about, man, their customer, they should. If you're blaming customers, you don't understand marketing. If you're blaming employees, you don't understand marketing.
There's a saying amongst world leaders that say, if the people have no one to fight, they fight themselves.
And it's happening in America right now.
And that's what kind of we caught up in. We're playing in the minutia. So
And stop, people, black people. Let me just say this real quick. I'm gonna say something bold, and get your finger close to the cancel button. Stop joining white people movement. Stop joining white people movement. I'm gonna just tell y'all right now. Stop joining white people movement. White people who are warring with each other behind these Republican, Democrats, don't like Trump, don't like Biden. Stop joining those damn movements. Those are distractions. Figure out how to be your own woman and man and work on your shit. Go on next one.
How do you do that?
Stop joining where people moving. No, that's the next sentence. I'm sorry.
You find out on your questionnaire what colors they prefer, what shapes, what words. You find out the brands of perfume they buy, automobiles, clothes, jewelry, food.
See?
You match those brands to the ads and commercials that sell them.
See?
And you discover by becoming interested in what messages are being sent to your customers by other companies who are successfully selling to them, what messages you might send to those customers who are demographically and psychographically the same as your existing central demographics model to intentionally come in your door.
So let me make this really simple. You can tell when an entrepreneur is in a room because he or she's asking a hella question. They're asking hella, hey, why'd you go over there and buy that? Have you ever went to this other store? Tell me something. Like an entrepreneur is so big, they're almost like friendly investigators at a party. You have dinner with them. They ask they want to pry into like, okay, let's just get real. I know we playing this game right here. Let's get real. Do you or do you not like this? Mm-hmm. I thought you was that kind of person. Tell me more about that. Oh, okay. Well, you ever heard of this? They're gathering information, and they're not doing it like Google does it when it's trying to pull information. It's become their normal way of communicating now. You ever watch a rich white dude at a party where there's no rich people, and watch him just be like, oh, interesting. Interesting. And he's eating the food and he's drinking. Tell me more about that. So in the black community, how do you see this? Oh, I really enjoyed talking to you. I just love this conversation.
Straight
He
up.
ain't said shit and gave you no game besides absorb. But so many of y'all get around the same people, white people preferably. You know, I went to Cal Berkeley, and I personally wear Gucci, but I don't wear it all the time because I'm a different type of black person. And in addition to that, you know, I only eat this kind of organic food. But you know, one of my favorite restaurants, which you should probably go to, they serve the best. Because you don't feel like you're good enough.
Yeah.
And you're missing the opportunity to go in that environment and extract. Go get your money, because the information they give you is money.
Question, Chabisha, where do you grocery shop on the weekends? What store? Sprouts. Cassandra, where do you grocery shop on the weekends? Sprouts. Where do you grocery shop on the weekend? Trader Joe's. So you got a Trader Joe and 2 Sprouts, right? Now, there's the dopeness about that is it's two marketing demographics there. There's a Whole Foodser, right? There's a Trader Joe's. There's a Sprouts. Then there's a Safeway, and then there's a 99-cent store and a grocery outlet, right? Depending on those demographics, then there's a completely different marketing strategies, and you got to know the people. So when you thumbing through a magazine and there's an ad, doesn't have to, and especially in a Bay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a white person or this person. It just has to be a certain kind of person that has a certain kind of taste and a flavor and a this. And if you know your customers, you know who walks in, you peeping everything. What kind of shoe, from the shoes to the purse to the bag to everything, then in your advertisement and marketing, you're going to attract those. You're going to attract those. So, and you can't tell a Trader Joe's person that Sprouts is better. They get to choose. They choose that. Nobody forces them. So you just have to reaffirm it by the stuff that they want. Like, learning this kind of shit can be so powerful for you. At that point, it no longer becomes about you anymore. You're always inquiring, okay, why? Why do you go to Sprouts? What is it about Sprouts, Chabisha, that makes Sprouts better than Whole Foods and or Trader Joe's or any of the other ones? I mean, rhetorically, but you find that shit out and ask the next person and the next person and get there, and you know none of it's steeped in logic, none of it. It's all emotional and it's all just personal preference and them getting branded. So you're just gathering data like, oh damn, that was some good ass marketing, because they bit hard on that part right there, and that's gonna make that's gonna help us all grow our brands better.
Questions. Let's get some questions in here as I look through these slides, because I think Danielle slides are off, because we should have continued from last week, but I'm going to check this out real quick just make sure we're in the right place. So go ahead. Questions? You want to come to the bench?
You said that once products start moving, it's a different conversation. So what is that conversation? You've captured their emotion before the sale. What happens after the sale? How are you positioning a product or a service to continue that emotion, but maybe throw in some logic and reason? Does that make sense?
No. Try again.
So after you've captured them as a customer, because you've tapped into the emotion, you understand what they think they want, and you can sell that, how do you keep them as a customer? You keep that same vein of emotional.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is part of keeping that communication is like you have to keep a line connection to them, right? And it could be a cultural line, right? Also, sometimes a follow-up. Hey, how'd you like it? Did everything work out fine? Then send them every once in a while, send them new offers. Hey, I have something that you might be interested in. You know, I was thinking about you. You got to keep that line of connection, communication. But also, when they leave with your product, you also need to test your product in the real world. Some of us sell products, but don't realize that, 5 days from now, your product doesn't perform the same, right? It has to have, even like with training, right? What are people feeling like that week that they train with you, the next day? 2 months from now, how do you feel? What's the difference in how you feel, right? How can you tap into that space to handle the experience? You might even just sell a fresh drink, or create a new experience, or feeling. They call it. When like cable says you didn't pay for showtime, so we cut that off. Well, sometimes the pipe, what's come to the pipeline doesn't cost any more or less. So what they do is they can offer you something, but it doesn't cost them more, but it makes you feel different. Sometimes you can have this space open where you're like, I'll offer this to you to fill that space, or provide this new service solution, or even tweak the products and service you're providing to change that space you see is a problem in their life. But you have to be so in tune with how your product is showing up in people's life to make sure that experience, that branding experience, is consistent. So like, PCs, no matter how pretty they look, Apple, you can look at an Apple and PC and they can look just as pretty. But where Apple whoops ass is 6 months from now, my shit still works really, really good. PC's on the phone calling somebody, right? So that in itself is a marketing compromise. And so your job is, I need to make sure that the experience you have, if it has an update, I need you to just hit one button and go to sleep. I don't need you sitting there going, okay, then you open up this program, then turn this off, then click on this, then Google this so you can look at this up, then watch this video. You lost me. I'm done. I'm over. It's too much, right? So how is your product? I buy that jacket from you, and you wash it accidentally in the washing machine, and you pull it out, and that shit fits dolls in the house. Or when you put it on, it shows you put a seatbelt on, take the seatbelt off, and the wrinkles are still there, right? But you spent, say, $200 for that vest. I'm just saying, I'm making up stuff, right? That's a problem. A $200 vest needs to be an experience that says, when that thing goes across my chest, that material needs to feel some kind of way. Or if I wash it 3 times, it should not look like. Well, if you sell it for $30, that same sweatshirt, it might only be designed for it to be washed 3 to 5 times and go on to the next, right? Because you're in the Zara market. But if you're in the high-end fashion, that really high-end market, and it's washable, that means I should be able to have this next year and a year after that. And so how your products, because you have to empower your customer also to sell your product. So what about your product and your design and services is helping your customers sell it to their peers, which is exponential growth. So, for example, let's say you bought that jacket. How easy for you to help that person go get another jacket, right? Or sell the value of that jacket. If that's too hard for you to transfer to another customer, that's a problem. But you got to kind of get in that bragging space, which is people's personal status space. How do they talk about my product or services to raise my status? Like when I raised my prices back in the days, people just say, man, like going to Fight Team is like going to Mercedes-Benz. It's just expensive. But then when people came here, they said, yo, yeah, I just went over there and got some work done in Fight Team. It's nothing for a player like me. Because, you know, I got to do what I got to do to take care of my business. So then they bragging about it. But they just sold me to 3 or 4 people. But you get to a point where no one talks about you afterwards, then you're not doing good business. That's still marketing.
There's Seth Godin talks about this. He says it's a true story about somewhere in England where they had a lot of potatoes. They were trying to give potatoes to the people, and because there was famines and stuff, rations and stuff, and people didn't want them. They hated potatoes. It was nasty. They couldn't figure out how to cook potatoes to where it tasted good. So they rebranded the potato. And what they did was they created a royal potato patch by the palace, and they put guards next to it. And they said, potatoes are now royal food. Nobody else can eat it. And so they would have these meals with potatoes and put it out there. And what they told the security guards was, we want you to secure the potato patch, but not really. And people would come and they sneak and steal the potatoes from the patch. And when they went back to their homes or whatever, now the potato felt different. So it's the kings and queens created a particular lifestyle for the potato, and now the potato, the perception of it changed. So I guess our work is we got to create what that lifestyle looks like that continues to recirculate in the minds of our customers. And that typically sometimes is work because you work hard to create the product and the website and this, but then you got to create this ecosystem too that they can tap into and be like, oh yeah, I got that. This is dope and I'm part of this. And that's another work.
And I mean, and here's the thing, when you create a product and service, you tap into all the human senses. How does it touch? How does it smell? If you're a trainer and you get musty with me and then you get close to me like, let me help you stretch out your arm real quick. You can lose me on that alone. I could be losing weight, but I can't take this. I can't take the sour cream, the Dorito smell. It's too much, right? And so everything, how your hair's combed, how you're dressed, if you say I want to be a professional in your industry, what does the top professionals look like? Like, here's another thing I don't understand with people. I was talking to my wife about this. Let's say if I wanted to open up a restaurant, the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sign up for some cooking classes. I'm gonna learn how to cook. I want to learn all the basic chef rules. But I'm also gonna apply to work 1 or 2 years, even for free, in what I would consider the top performing restaurant in my industry. I don't give a fuck if I'm just washing dishes for 2 years, because I can observe while I'm washing dishes. I can help. I can look here. I can be brushing the back of your jacket. Whatever the fuck I got to do. But in my observation, and then once I practice, I'm going to school and I'm observing, I'm also building relationships while I'm doing all this. So when it comes time for me to open my restaurant, I have guaranteed customers already lined up, right? I'm also cooking stuff for people like, hey, try this out. Hey, I learned this in school. Try this out. Hey, I look this. So now everybody's like, yo, y'all see Nana's? His pieces are crazy. Have you ever had that shit? By the time I opened my restaurant, I built up my whole marketing campaign. That's fine. But I did it while I was learning and being a student of the game. What we do is we go straight from, yo, I want to do this. I'm going to get out there. I'm not going to observe nobody. I'm not going to spend no time with nobody. I'm not going to watch nothing about the industry. I'm just going to do this because I believe this shit going to work. And so at the end of the day, it's one of those things where in the whole business game, marketing doesn't just start when you're selling a product. It's the whole human experience. Who are you? Mm-hmm. Are you that the service and products you sell? Are you that person? Mm-hmm. If I saw you on the streets, do you project that product and service that you sell, or do you project something else?
Mm-hmm. Hey, and that was tough for me because I am an introvert. Not even kind of like And after my first go round as an entrepreneur and hitting some numbers and learning, coming through my spiritual journey, I was devoid of material shit and I didn't care about nothing. So I would go to my son's hoop games because my son play hoop. So I would be in pajama bottoms and a hoodie and a beanie and just happy as fuck, right? Doing my shit, sitting in the corner watching my son hoop. Year 3 into Courtsmith, I'm in the same pajama bottoms in the corner watching, and so it happened a couple times. Oh, hey, this is Courtsmith. Let me introduce you to Courtsmith. And I'm raggedy as fuck. This is a coach. This is Courtsmith. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do that no more. I'm going to start dressing up a little bit. And there I go in my pajama bottoms again, and the shit happens again and again and again. And like, when am I going to learn this lesson? Because it affects, now that's money, that's future money. And they're like, damn, if you look coming to out in public looking like this, what the fuck? Like how? Because that shapes and shifts perception of you. So it does become a responsibility like that you have to add to your plate, is that you represent your brand, and people will look at you and be like, all right, I'm gonna judge yay or nay just based on just seeing you right now.
Let me add to that too. Don't be on social media cussing people out.
Yeah.
Don't be in social media arguing with nobody. If you're in business, hey, take those L's. Fuck you, Nana. Okay. I'm out. I'm not doing this. Because at the end of the day, you're small. This is big. You don't let small people take you out of your big game. You don't, when I'm on social media, first of all, if I'm ever on social media, I'm doing observations. But look at my posts. If I'm not posting my products and services, I don't really have much to talk about. Now, if you catch me personally or you come to this class, I might let you know some real personal shit. But I don't put my money, I don't shit where I eat. That's just a part of the game. And so on social media, don't leave. I'm talking about from problems you have on the block to relationships. Don't put that shit out there. Don't put your child fucking up in school and I want to beat his ass. Keep all that shit to yourself. Because the people need to see the way they need to see you when they buy your products and services. That's just what it is. Mm-hmm. It ain't about who you really. I ain't being true to myself. Okay, be true to yourself with your broke ass. You choose broke as fuck.
Don't be true to yourself on social media.
Because first of all, it's a illusion.
Do not. You're creating a perception for them to buy products from you, and that's it.
That's it.
So if you need to toughen or soften or shape or your image or whatever, it's all chess moves and strategies. Really, that's it. And if you're doing it because you got to get some shit off your chest or you are fucking up, do not. It's all strategy, and you're testing.
Don't use social media to announce your weaknesses and social media. I've just been weak so long, and I just want somebody to share this experience with me as I try to get my body shape back together and get my life back, because I'm gonna check in with you as a journal. No.
Do not.
Fuck what you heard. No. Now you can offer words like, hey, I just want to say to the community, hey, women, hold your head up. Men, hey, stand strong. People, hey, look, at the end of the day, believe in yourself. Like you can offer words of encouragement and motivational, cool words like that. That's cool. But those, I want to open up to you right now on social media. I want to share all of my preferences with you. No, the fuck you don't. No, the fuck you don't. You find your 150 close friends and you call them up, or y'all get your own private intranet and y'all have all the deep conversations y'all want to have with all the shit y'all want to say. But when it comes to the public, let the public have their fantasies.
Exactly.
That's simple. And we fucking up fantasies all day long. We are just fucking the fantasies up. Anyway, let's jump in there. So we're going to jump back to last week, emotional agility, because I think Danielle thought I wanted her to just skip all this meat on a bone, pause. And so we're going to get back into this and keep it rolling. So let's start right with this next one.
Emotionally agile people are dynamic. They demonstrate flexibility in dealing with our fast-changing, complex world. They are able to tolerate high levels of stress and to endure setbacks while remaining engaged, open, and receptive. They understand that life isn't always easy, but they continue to act according to their most cherished values and pursue their big long-term goals.
Wait a minute, we read that last paragraph. It's so important. Read it again.
They understand that life isn't always easy, but they continue to act according to their most cherished values and pursue their big long-term goals.
Keep going.
They still experience feelings of anger, sadness, and so on. Who doesn't? But they face these with curiosity, self-compassion, and acceptance. And rather than letting these feelings derail them, emotionally agile people effectively turn themselves, warts and all, toward their loftiest ambitions.
So this explains where we're trying to get you to. This is the destination here. This is the full explanation of destination. We're not trying to get you to all positive feelings, but we need you to show up to those feelings. Because once you show up to those feelings, you own those feelings don't own you. That's number one. Number two, setbacks, stress, things that bother you, knowing how to navigate that, knowing how to still be curious even when you're taking a whooping. Third thing is, what's the other one was, just setbacks. Being able to handle long-term goals. One of the reasons, and I want to tap this one real fast, and we'll keep moving. A lot of times when we're emotionally rigid, we get into a space where emotionally short-term pleasures become more important than long-term goals. Because ultimately we're fighting the voice in our head and we're trying to subdue that pain with a short-term decision that ultimately betrays our ultimate goal. Now, if you have a job, a lot of you guys have probably been living that pattern every day and don't even know you're doing it. When you run your business, if you can't delay gratification, if you can't use second choice thinking, which I'll talk about that a little bit next week, where you understand the impact of a decision and the causations 2 and 3 plays down the road, and that you have to be able to give up something, you have to be able to accept a current moment of dissatisfaction because a third level play is what you really want in life. You got to be able to tell somebody no for the ultimate yes. Like, you understand how psychologically, how emotionally that's difficult if you're not emotional agile? When you're emotional rigid, you're more or less just reactionary to everything. You're breaking at every turn and every corner. You're over amplifying falls. You're devastated by setbacks. You also have a tendency to even look for villains because you can't accept that you made the mistake. So where we're trying to go, this whole paragraph, this whole section summarizes that, hey, people are dynamic. They demonstrate flexibility in dealing with our fast-changing, complex world. What you find with poor cultures is they're trying to keep the things the way they are. You hear this from poor old people. Shit just need to go back to the way it used to be. Poor, if you want to hear that, go to any poor neighborhood, white, black, Asian, and you're going to hear somebody talking about we need to go back to the way it used to be. You'll hear people talking about why are things changing. Well, what we used to do in our generation, this new generation, that's broke people talk. In the real world, if you're working on emotional agility, then what you're working on is being able to adjust to all the changes, because half the time we have this story in our head on how the world really works and how the world really is. All right, let me get deep real quick. The stories you tell yourself about the way the world works, this is deep. The stories you tell yourself about the way the world works are only stories that helped you navigate uncertainty. But the world never worked that way. Every story you ever told, this is the way the world works. Whatever story you ever told yourself was only designed to help you deal with the pain of uncertainty. And it's okay if it just served the purpose of helping you get through something. But what you don't realize is that the world is not the world in your head. It's always changing. Chaos is more common than structure. But your brain cannot ride those waves that are so crazy because you're stuck on that the world needs to move this way as opposed to the way it really moves. Once you decide you want to shift from that emotional space to accepting the way the world moves, that is psychologically hard on you, emotionally hard on you. It hurts because it feels like I took your whole reality away from you. And so, in order for you to be able to walk in the land of randomness, in a world that you don't control, in a world of variations, a world that ain't really changing that much. Like most of the time when you say the world's getting good or bad, worse or better, that's really your perception. It ain't got nothing to do with the real world. Like I heard Ghetto Boys, what's the not Scarface, the other one, the older, the darker one, the taller. He has his own.
D something.
Yeah, the older one. He had a show. He's like, yo, this world's really getting crazy. Well, his show is about reporting crazy shit every day. So when you report shit every day, that's what you find every day. That's how the world seems to you. For that young girl who's walking around picking flowers when she gets up every morning, like my daughter, the world's beautiful. It's amazing. Right? So the stories we tell ourselves about the world are only stories that makes us feel comfortable because human beings can't feel comfortable with the way the world really works. So most of the stories we tell ourselves are nowhere near the truth. They're just the truth we needed to convince ourselves to feel comfortable with the world. Once you get into this entrepreneur shit, you have to be able to walk out of the land of your comfort to the land of reality, which is absolute discomfort. And when you get in that land, if you can't quiet that voice that keeps telling you it should be like this is why most people can never leave their religion, their mother's and father's religion. Your mother's and father's religion could be the absolute worst religion in the world. You will never leave it because psychologically it takes too much energy to leave. It takes too much psychological power to leave. And most human beings cannot produce that amount of power to change. That's why human beings don't like to change much of anything. We like everything to stay the same. You can sit there and rationalize. If you're one of those people that I can sit down and rationalize A over B, but you're going to stay with B because B makes you feel more comfortable and you're used to it, then you're one of those people that's probably trapped in your make-believe story of the way the world works. Stories we tell ourselves are only designed to make us comfortable. That's might be the most harshest thing I've ever said to you. And if you really examine what I just said to you, that kind of should hurt you. Because at the end of the day, like somebody said to me, like somebody's like, so self is not real? No, it's a story you just told yourself. Self is a story you're comfortable with. Self is always changing because nothing around self stays the same. So self can't stay the same, so you can't define self as a static. Self is a constant evolution. If you don't believe it, put a video camera on yourself and watch how self changes every year. You'd be like, God damn, I'm hella different. Yes, you're different in multiple ways. You're a victim of everything around you because you're a living organism that integrates with everything. So this whole perception of, I gotta be true to myself, well, yeah and no and yeah, it depends. Now, I would never tell you that when you're saying that because that might be too fracturing if I made that comment. But when I hear you, I got to be able to hear you clearly to read you. Because at the end of the day, remember this, I got to know you better than you know yourself. And I just gave you a hella game. And when y'all realize that stories are only designed to make you feel comfortable, you're going to realize how much of the world you've made up in your head. And this is why, like, if you really want to understand your Bible or the Quran or Buddhism or any of these other religions, disconnect from the stories in your head, the stories you've been raised by, your parents, your mama, your daddy, and those books will come alive to you. Many of us are only reading these deep books and these materials, even scholarly material by some of our top scholars of our time in the last, say, 4,000 years. There's a lot of great books for 4,000 years of great scholars. Most of us today cannot understand that material because we can't get past ourselves. And so even today, many of you guys are never going to make good money because you can't get past yourself. You will never stop being a Negro out of East Oakland, a Negro from Chicago, a Negro from New Orleans, a Latino, whatever, I don't have a phrase for that, but anyway, but a Latino that's defined lesser than because you are trapped in the stories in your head, not the reality you exist in. Reality you exist in is limitless based upon the time you have. Reality that you live in your head is based upon limits. I went real deep.
Yeah, that was deep. I'm gonna add this. Just correlate that with the slides we talked about with E-Myth is that if you're emotionally agile, imagine the type of marketer you could be.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the type of market research you can get. If you're emotionally rigid, you could do all the research in the world and that shit's gonna be bullshit. Yeah. So an emotionally agile human who translate that into their business and trying to figure out what their customers want, that whole, like, you reverse that in terms of rigidity, that person is going to build their product or service based on what shit's supposed to be, or the old times, or this, or that. That's their mental model in the story that they have in their head. That's a lot of times how we end up stuck. So it more than correlates with each other.
I'll do 2 more slides, and if there's questions, we go home. This is the next slide. Go ahead.
My clients tell me all the time that the demands of modern life make them feel caught, hooked, and flipping like a fish on a line. They want to do something bigger than their lives, like explore the world, get married, finish a project, succeed at work, start a business, get healthy, and develop strong relationships with their children and other family members. But their day-to-day actions don't move them anywhere closer to, and in fact, are often completely misaligned with these desires. Even as they struggle to find and embrace what's right for themselves, they are trapped not only by their actual circumstances, but also by their own self-defeating thoughts and behaviors. Moreover, my clients who are parents worry incessantly about how this stress and overload affects their children.
Watch this. They just told you why racism has power over you. It's the stories you tell yourself. It's the mental trappings you create for yourself. It's a limit. Okay, let me give you a quick example. I know individuals right now who want, let's say, they want to reach this level here, but they're often boggled down in emotions down here, and they're also, which hijacks their time and their attention, and so their day ends up living down here, even though they want to go up here. They often can't talk to me in court because they feel emotionally attacked. They often will avoid conversations because they feel not good enough. They often can't they can't complete projects because they're trying to achieve perfection. They often can't, when they're amongst people, they can't hear nobody because they're trying to be approved. They're triggered so much that nobody wants to give them advice or even show up to them and support them. You'd be surprised how much of your emotions trap you into a rhythm that got nothing to do with your dreams and your hopes. And so when you're so trapped, you can't even test look, if you were down here, you don't know what it feels like to be up here. You don't know. I promise you, for somebody who's been climbing, you don't know, and there's no clue. You can watch all the TV shows about millionaires and billionaires. You don't know what this feels like. And you can never experience it because at the end of the day, you're boggled down by all the emotions down here. And you victimize yourself so fucking much to the point it's invisible now. It just becomes your mode of operation. It's no longer just, at one point it was conscious. Now it's so deeply rooted, it's just like a third rail that you just avoid. You just avoid. And at the end of the day, you're busy as hell, filling that space of nothing, because you realize I don't want to go past that third rail, so I'm gonna just give all this noise attention that don't even matter. I'm gonna spend time on Facebook. I'm gonna watch this TV. I'm gonna watch this basketball game. I'm gonna be on the phone with my girlfriend talking to her about her motherfucking problems. I'm about to sit around here and talk about politics with my other cousin. I'm about to cook some dinner and talk to my kids about nothing. I'm about to whoop my other nephew because he's getting my fucking nerves. I'm doing all this shit that don't mean a motherfucking thing. And here's the sad part: that dream is untouched. And the people up here who, if you do meet somebody up here, you emotionally don't like them because you feel inferior to them. You feel like they're judging you. You feel like they're rich because the only reason they're rich and you're not is because maybe the gods or racism are holding you back. Because there's no other way I could be down here. It's just no other way. It couldn't possibly be me, Nana, because at the end of the day, I believe in myself. So somehow they are stopping me from getting up there. These people don't even like me. They judge me. And when a person gave me critique, who are you to tell me as a poor black person who can afford I should be doing? You are just not respecting my space. Social justice. You guys get where I'm going with this? How cold this emotional game is so motherfucking cold that the weapon, the racism that we're really fighting, that superpower that's really holding us back, is that emotions inside of us. These people up here can't even talk to you to get you up there. They're calling you every day. They'll tell you, hey, Donna, hey, read this. She'd be like, oh, it's so hard. It's boring. Can't read that book. It's boring. Or I tried to read it one time and I got through it, but I don't really get it. So I'm not gonna read it again because if I read it again, it might mean that I don't know what I read. Or if I read it again, maybe I wouldn't know it. So I'm scared. That's another because I have fear that if I read it 3 or 4 times, I might not get it. Or if I read it 3 or 4 times, I feel like I should get it the first time. So, which means that maybe something is really wrong with me after all. So guess what? Yeah, I read it. Yeah. I love when he said this in the book. Yeah, I know that was deep, high approach there. Because in the end, I'm going to talk to you because I want you to accept me. Because if you accept me, at least I can feel rich. I might not be rich, but I'm going to feel rich because I'm around your rich ass. So at the end of the day, I am avoiding these emotions. You see where I'm going with this shit? This game is real. It's so fucking real. And I've been dealing with this shit for 6 years teaching this fucking class. How many emotions I got to talk to every fucking year, all through the year. Look, we do these retreats, man, and you know this. You've been 1 or 2? 2, okay. So after retreats, you think, oh, they got it. They got it. January hit. And they right back to, man, I tried this shit, but sometimes I just feel like it ain't for me. I just feel like this shit's hard. I feel like I just feel, well, can I tell you what's wrong? No. I mean, I can't talk to you right now. That's just too much. It's too much. I'm just ready to be over here. Or you tell somebody like, hey, man, that's just not working. What do you mean that's not working? Look, oh, wait a minute. You don't come from, so you want to attack me to make yourself feel better? Yet you sat in my class every day. How the fuck are you attacking me? I don't get this. Mm-hmm. I promise you, this emotional game is so, you got that voice when that teacher told you, if you don't pass this class, you ain't gonna do shit with yourself. And a lot of teachers told you that shit. So now you're like, yo, I ain't never been good at English. Motherfucker, that's 40 years ago. What the fuck are you telling me about? If you just practice a couple of words a day for the last 10 years, you'd be writing motherfucking novel. What the fuck are you saying?
Hey, I was talking to a good friend, very intelligent friend, and she was telling me she has a newborn child, and she was like, I struggled so much when I was young, just being, a black woman in mostly white spaces, and I struggled because I'm light skinned. So my family members over here was dark skinned. I got made fun of, and there was no representation on TV. So I was just confused growing up, and so now I just feel the same. Like my baby came out and it's light, and I feel the same fear for my baby. That they're gonna grow up in the spaces where they have to fight for their identity and they not know who they are. I'm like, hey, yo, have you turned on like Netflix cartoons? It's little black girls on that motherfucker everywhere with afros and curly tops and braids, every type. The smart ones, the scientific ones, the adventurous ones. We in different times now. You're like, if we get stuck on our stories, those old stories that emotionally affect us, we think that's the way the world is. Not realizing the whole world is opened up, it's changed. No, turn on the TV. It's different. Now go to the schools. It's all kind of different shades nowadays in the Bay Area in your schools. That shit you ain't got to worry about no more. Now here's the cold part about that. When you take that from somebody who's emotionally latched on to that for so long, you'll get anger. They need that back because that's been my identity for this whole time.
Yeah, I've been downtrodden all this time, and white people been stepping on my neck, and now you gonna tell me there ain't no white people stepping on my neck? Now you got the game fucked up. You see, you one of those because you got some money. You one of those Negroes. You don't come at me because you broke and you got a fucked up mind. Don't fuck with me like that. Like you cannot let the helper show up for you because you're gonna fight them away because your emotions will not accept them. Or when they're talking to you, all you hear is judgment. You don't hear no advice. Matter of fact, you even have emotional third rails that says if you say anything outside of my beliefs, it cannot possibly exist. It's not possible. It's not possible. I'm not even questioning it. It's not possible.
Some religious folks.
Like, I've had people say, I know their lives are fucked up. I know their life is about as fucked up as could be. Said, no, I can't sit in your class because you cuss. Some of them were alcoholics. I knew a couple that snorted cocaine
And don't go to the class because of cussing?
because they're cursing. Now, I didn't call out a racial name. I didn't attack somebody.
Playing.
But these motherfuckers, or they're slicing people with words and undermining people's infrastructures and damaging families. But I can't be around you because you cuss. If you don't stop making excuses with your emotional, fearful, look, your emotions are going to have you so fucked up, I can't begin to explain that. That's why I keep saying, you guys, racism is more powerful in branding than reality. Now, systemic racism is real, but systemic racism is not an absolute. Casamont does not need to be there. It is emotionally protected. I just want y'all to think about that.
Yo, here's some freedom too, and we've said it hella times, is because we've never had a lot of teachers or anyone in a space like this to help work through mental models and thinking and ideas, and we've never realized that our brains, our emotions are not us. So it's freeing to understand that our brains and our feelings, they're not us, they're part of us. Just like a finger or a twitch or an arm or elbow. So they don't rule us. I knew growing up when I felt a thought, when I had a thought or a decision making or something popped in my head or a feeling, that was God talking almost to us. Not realizing, fuck no, that's the same, like it's just a little tool. It's another tool you have in your body that is wrong a lot. That's false a lot.
Isn't it messed up how they always blaming God for that messed up voice?
It's wrong
God
a lot.
told me, God ain't told you shit. God, sit your ass down with your crazy. All right, go next one. That's one.
We all do this in one way or another. We walk or run around the blocks of our lives over and over, obeying rules that are written, implied, or simply imagined, getting hooked by ways of being and doing that don't serve us. I often say that we act like wind-up toys, repeatedly bumping into the same walls, never realizing there may be an open door just to our left or our right.
Can we call this, okay, let's read this again one more time. Let's call this the paragraph of oppression. Black people's oppression, Latin folks' oppression, Filipino people's oppression, Asian community oppression in this country. Let's read it. This is not one for all you experience oppression. Jews oppression. For all you experience oppression. Let's do this again. This is for you now. Let's do it again.
We walk or run around the blocks of our lives over and over, obeying rules that are written, implied, or simply imagined.
Wait a minute. Simply imagine? You know, white people don't like this. You know, white people ain't gonna let you say that. You know, white people gonna come for you tomorrow. You know, white people gonna take all your money. You know, white people. Oh, keep it going. This is language. So we walk and we run around the block of our lives over and over, obeying rules that are written.
Implied.
Or
Simply imagined.
Or just simply imagining these motherfucking rules. Keep going.
Getting hooked by ways of being and doing that don't serve us.
Wait a minute. I'm a player. I got a wild out. I don't give a fuck about these niggas. I'm about to do me in this motherfucker. You know what? I'm an independent man. I'm an independent woman. You know, I don't need no black man. I got my shit. How in the fuck is that serving us? But this is shit you saying that's emotionally tied in, that if I challenge you right now, oh, no, you can't come at me like this with your emotional ass responses. I beat my kid's ass. All these emotional ass responses you giving me. Well, it worked for me. Emotional ass responses.
It didn't work all the way.
I gotta, you know what? Oh my God, there's so much hypocrisy in what we, as human beings. And a lot of our hypocrisy comes from this idea that we follow these ideas that don't work for us, but we keep pouring into them because we tie our identity to them. I'm a real nigga. What the fuck? Are you bragging about that? Keep going.
I often say that we act like wind-up toys, repeatedly bumping into the same walls.
Oh, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me black folks ain't built their own city yet? You mean to tell me we still have the discussion that Martin Malcolm was having, and Elijah Muhammad, and Marcus Garvey was having, and Maria Stewart was having? You mean to tell me that we still don't have good schools? You mean to tell me that we still have fucked up neighborhoods? You mean to tell me that we still one of the poorest people in the United States? You mean to tell me that we still dying first from diseases, last hired? You mean to tell me that we're in a situation that we don't control our food, clothing, or shelters? You mean to tell me that we don't control our own entertainment? We still getting burned as music artists as we get paid with these contracts? Are we bumping into the same fucking walls? And yet we ain't changed not one of our conversations. We just think if we just keep working harder at blaming white people, it's just gonna get better. Is that what we think? Keep going.
Never, you're just gonna say something? Oh. Never realizing there may be an open door just to our left or our right.
Uh-oh. And guess why you won't go to your left or right? Because your emotions will not let you. That's it. This book is about to be game. I know y'all thought we was about to read a white woman talking about emotions and touchy feeling, and I'm about to be like, "How are you? Are you in the right? Are you in a safe space? Can I talk to you? I see and I feel that my anger, it may be causing your anger, and I just want." You thought we was gonna be doing that shit? Nope. We ain't doing that shit. We're gonna do a little bit of that shit to retreat, but we ain't doing that shit today. Today, I'm trying to give you all a reality of how powerful your emotions really are. I'm trying to get you out of this thing that women are emotional, men are not. My mentor said one thing to me, and I couldn't bust him out because he would have brought fire on me in some other way, and I ain't got time for it. But he says, no, take your emotions out of it. And I want to say, how the fuck you do that, Jesus? Because I don't think a human being is known to do that. It's not possible. When you tell me to take my emotions out of it, that's emotional comment. Like you can't, there's no such thing. Right? But this is a thing that we set this idea, business always set this idea that men are, we're very non-emotional businessmen, and we make these non-emotional decisions. And then people come into our business offices, these guys and these women, and they destroy everything with being emotional, and I don't understand what's going on. And then you have the other extreme. I need you to understand that my emotions can't receive what you just said, and you made me feel, okay, me, not you, because I respect you. You made me feel unsafe. Okay. Both of those, the pendulums went too motherfucking far. I'm trying to just take that whole model, ball it up like a piece of paper, and do a slam dunk in my garbage can. It's garbage. The reality is that we're all fucking emotional. And emotions is driving your rationalization. And underneath that rationalization, what's driving that is your mental models. And if you don't get this game, as you work on yourself, you fucking yourself up. It's like you believe that your radiator is the most important part of your car, and you over there spending time like having your radiator dipped in certain metals and pouring certain kind of fluids. Motherfucker, you out of oil. You out of oil. Your engine ain't gonna start no more. You dying. Your radiator's pretty as fuck, and you just set it off again, but you still out of oil. You gotta know how the engine works to take care of the engine. Too many of us are we just changing hoses, ain't got no gas. Where are you gonna go? The reality is that this emotional shit is really a psychological barrier that we learn to articulate and justify. So most of the discussions you hear playing out in social justice is articulating emotional space that we're sitting in. That's what it's really doing. And it's helping you, when you hear Black Lives Matter, it helps you feel better. When you hear the white man did it, he's evil, it makes you feel better. When you hear that white people are bad, it makes you feel better. And next time a white man or a white woman says, I'm privileged, I'd be like, how the fuck are you privileged? Because for you to apply your privilege with your token ass comment, it implies that I'm not privileged. With your soft ass. You never said soft shit to me. Just talk to me. Play that soft shit. Tokenism is just as dangerous as just you calling me a nigga. Because what you're doing is, you know, once you understand the importance of your emotions and how you have to like build an infrastructure to support it and protect it, you'll see all the blows you taking every day. Oh, you know, as a minority in this country, you've been victimized, and I understand what you're going through. You know what they just did? They took a shovel, dug it into the dirt, and poured more on top of your motherfucking grave. And psychologically, you just getting buried. As opposed to going like, hey, hold on, partner. I don't need no fucking comments from you. I don't really give a shit. There's hella options. I'm about to find out which one works for me. I'm about to get out here and get mines. Because that's what white people are doing. White people are not the majority. They're the minority of the world. But they performing their ass off, and I give them a nod, I give them respect. But we got to take our focus off of them and realize the walls that's holding us back is us. And all they do is just flame that emotional space. They'll bring back the KKK on your ass. They'll bring back some skinheads. Do a documentary about KKK and skinheads and how much they hate black people. And we'd be trembling in our boots in our house. And if you find out there's some broke-ass small group of white
Only
men.
14 of them.
And y'all be like, oh, the KKK, broke motherfuckers off of it. Man, look, cut it out. It's our emotions got us fucked up. I'm not saying white people don't have power. They do. I'm not saying white people ain't gonna protect their power. They're supposed to. I'm saying we're not threatening, we're not challenging the game. We're not knocking at the door hard enough. When I say they're knocking on the door, not asking, we're knocking the door, meaning that we coming so strong that they got to change the system because we came alive.
Let's talk a little bit about mental illness, right? Mental illness versus just having emotional issues. So a lot of times, from a psychiatric perspective or just from a psychological perspective, when they study mental illness patients and they have these loops, right? Some rock back and forth, or they have these patterns, or they have these loops in their head that goes back and forth for in a day or an hour. They do the same stuff, and they have to have these things in a perfect way. And if they don't, they break out, or they have an incident or an emotional outburst because like it's not their rhythms are just tweaked a tiny bit. And we from the outside who are not in those mental institutions will look and be like, damn, those are some mental people. But a lot of times us humans who are in the real world, we behave in the same manner. We just spread it out a little bit.
That was tight, bro. That's all tight.
And that rocking back and forth or those mental loops is just expanded. And we're able to function, and we're able to have, food in the refrigerator and drive and all the shit. But we can suffer from similar mental illness and rhythms based on not being emotionally agile. And if something gets moved out, we can't function, or we fucked up, or we having an incident, or we having an event. And you can compare it, look at those things, and it's just smaller, a more compressed version of the same shit. So it's important for us to A, not judge, but B, really work on our emotions. Because it's like our brains are so malleable that it can happen to any of us. No matter how dope or raw we think we are, we take enough hits, we take enough beating, and we don't have the tools to work through it. Any of us can turn into that shit. So that's why it's constant work that we got to put in from an emotional agility perspective to keep stepping into our fears and our comfort zones and all those things on a consistent basis so that we're working that muscle.
Man, let me just say, side note, first of all, that was brilliant. That comparison, that alignment was brilliant. Do you understand what jumping out of the plane was for me? Man, shit, go ahead. Any questions? We good?
Online, there's no questions, but
Go
I
ahead.
had a question.
Go ahead, Bisha.
Just thinking about what you just said. The question that came up for me is like the distinction between the person who has a classified mental illness and somebody who's behaving in the same way, but has the ability through everything that you just talked about to move themselves into a different space, whereas the person who is further down on that spectrum, it may not be as easy for them.
I almost question, is it easier for either one? Because I'll be honest, change requires so much energy. Like, there's a rule of there's a ignite theory that energy has to be ignited. Like I forgot it. Like I ignite a fire, right? And and how match, if you throw it on like one piece of newspaper on a log of woods, the paper will burn, but the wood won't catch on fire. You just scorch it, the wood. You need a certain amount of energy to be transferred to the paper, the heat, which is energy transfer, heat, a certain amount of heat to get the wood to burn, right? Sometimes for human beings, we don't have enough motivation to change. And so at the end of the day, it becomes a mental illness because we get stuck, and it's almost like you watch a slow death of a good person.
Last week, one of the slides was talking about this very thing, like how our rhythms lead to often depression and anxiety.
Right.
Right. But one of the things that, I guess the thing that I'm questioning is that somehow contributing to this belief that we are helpless, right? Because we're not psychologists. But when we hear, oh, that's similar, oftentimes you hear people colloquially saying, I'm depressed, I have anxiety, I have OCD. Like we use psychological colloquialisms as like an excuse, right? That's a place for us to be like, well, I have this and I have that. Because if I have that, then I'm just as helpless as somebody who could be in a mental institution, so what do you want me to do?
So contextually, you're right. There's two rights to this. It's based on perspective. In modern day society, we run to the impotent position. Everybody's kind of being pushed towards. So yeah, the society we came from, that's a challenge. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's a different perspective. So for the entrepreneur in this class who's challenging themselves, it's awareness of, oh shit, I'm still in the mud? Okay, now I keep going. For that person who's already leaning towards a weakness, then they're going to gravitate in that direction. Because many of us, that's why the reason I started taking social justice so much in this class, think about this, I took a whole year of just, I was like a samurai soldier against social justice. Because it was designed to make us weaker. It was designed to get our emotions out of control. And it was designed where we couldn't compete and fight back. Because life is a fight. Anything moving will experience resistance, friction. Anything moving will experience friction. So if you decide you want to move the community forward, you got to experience friction. But social justice makes us uncomfortable with friction. It makes us almost friction ignorant as well. Because like there's certain, we talked about this in the beginning of class, there's certain rituals we engage in as growing up that teaches us to get used to friction. You right? So even if you're in a martial art class, it's like you did a kick wrong and you get kicked in the head and you have to do push-ups, and then go run and then come back and fight again. I ain't got no energy. Well, that's what you gotta do, right? Mm-hmm. Nowadays, you're gonna get kicked probably because it'd be inappropriate. And I'm only gonna let you do as many push-ups as you're comfortable with. If you want to go no further, that's okay. And if you have asthma from your parents, you don't have to run. So at the end of the day, we almost engineered this extreme fragile behavior from people who need to be a little bit stronger to get out this fucking hole. So blacks, Latins, I call it ethnic Asians, Filipinos, ethnic whites, ethnic Jews, because I ain't talking about like the ones that are out. Those who have to get out that fucking hole, gotta be able to cut their leg and keep climbing. Not cut their leg and then go back down to the bottom, go get a Band-Aid, and then try it again, right? Or they stop because they can get their nails manicured because they're getting dirty, right? It's just, we're moving in a world where we're making people just too fucking fragile. And so what I did is I hit social justice from every human angle possible, where if you try to argue social justice with me, I wouldn't even give you a chance to breathe. I would just remove your oxygen from your argument. Because it's just a damaging, but you can't see the damage if you just focus on life through good and bad. Because it's blanketed with the word good so much, but it's so good that it's bad.
Also, what we like to do in society a lot of times, at least intellectuals, is we confuse having understanding of something with putting a title on it. So as soon as we can put a title on it or label it, a lot of times we think we got it. Oh, that's just, or that's just this. Or I've been diagnosed with lupus or blah, 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 blah. And then now I got something. I got a title. I can hold on to something now. When in actuality, most of that shit is not even none of that shit is even real. All the titles that we created back in certain situations, you might just need to get tougher. You might just need to get stronger. You might need a mama that sends your ass back there out there and fight. Your illness might go away because you're using because your brain is telling you have one. I think the compression of what really is happening and what the brain makes up is this society we live in now allows that shit to damn near get out of control because our brains are powerful. So a lot of times what you think, you can create. My daughter, that's one of the things I think is super dope about my daughter's mom. My daughter's cry time when she gets hurt with me versus when she gets hurt with her mom is completely different because she got me, right? It's a wrap. So if she get hurt and cries, come on, come here, let's sit down. And that cry time is long. If I'm talking to her mom over the phone about something and I hear her get hurt in the background, she has a strategy. Oh, she acknowledges the hurt. Oh, it hurts. Where does it hurt? It hurts on your butt. You feel on your butt. Then she makes a joke. They both laugh. She stops crying. So that's all my daughter's mind and brain because I come here, come on over here, come here, sit in daddy's lap. What you want? You want something to eat? Because it's the brain is doing that. So us as humans, we're big ass kids and we're doing the same shit.
Okay, go ahead.
So this question is, what is the separation or the difference between, sorry, my screen went, damn it. Okay. What is the separation or the difference between practices or customs that make people fragile versus preventing traumatic experiences?
What he just said. The deterioration of a structure. Like I said, white man performed. They're super dope at collecting information and coming up with strategy, especially when it comes to human psychology. So there was a certain toughness that was there. That worked, right? The deterioration of that allows our society to get softer. So it's actually the reverse of that.
Yeah, it's trauma, as we all know that get into the game of trauma, is weaponized. It is literally a weaponized word. I've been through trauma, which is meaning that I'm going to give myself an excuse, which is what allows you to walk away from medical responsibility sometimes too. What you'll also find is that trauma is also perception. You can really have a traumatized experience. Okay, so did you know that women recovery is stronger than men recovery from trauma? That a woman can recover from rape, which is way worse than almost anything that can happen to you, faster than a man can recover from a war. Did you know that? Women, you guys have a stronger recovery rate, which is fucking amazing, but maybe God designed that for survival purposes. I mean, that, the village gets killed, and you're the last seed to keep it alive. So if you die from the experience, we got a problem, right? But your ability to recover is fucking just amazing. Mm-hmm. How does society show up to that feeling? Right now, society is showing up to that word trauma so intense that it's weakening us, that we're overweighting it, right? Trauma is meant for us to, over time, overcome. Because otherwise, I'm going to use one that's kind of, women, please forgive me because I don't want to offend, and please, if I offend you, I apologize because that's not my intent. But let's say you were molested, right? If you never overcome the trauma, it's like being molested almost every day for the rest of your life. At some point, it's not saying that it's okay. It's not saying it was your fault, and definitely not saying it's right. And definitely not saying that it should be fought. And if I'm your daddy, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't have killed the guy. But what I'm saying to you is that you don't want the oppressor to control the rest of your life. At some point, you want your life back. And so, do we have a society that helps you regain your life? Or do you have a society that allows you to cushion your trauma and let the trauma steal your life? Because often trauma is something that happens in the past. Now, it's, and we're not talking about somebody that's in a traumatic situation, like, relationship where every time you go home, the man's beating you. But what I'm arguing is that at some point, how do you free yourself? And do you want society to just, right now society is just so sensitive and it's also amplifying. So let's say yours is kind of traumatic. Now almost all traumas are at 10. As opposed to, like, say traumas was like between 7 and 10, and some people have a 7, some people have a 10. By the time you go through society, you could be a 5 trauma, you're at 10. So it's so much, trauma conversation is not just a pure human experience and then I'm just trampling on the human experience. Society shapes the context and the level of that experience. And if those infrastructures that break down that can help you heal are not there, like if there was a women's circle that helped women process and heal and kind of evolve, women would become stronger. And they could take that trauma and use it as a tool, because let me be very clear, trauma could be a tool. It could be a weapon. It can empower you. It can give you a mission. It can give you purpose. It can give you drive. It can give you impact, right? But it can also smother you, destroy you, remove you, and kill you. Your microphone's off.
Hour and it's 10:02, so maybe this is for next week, but just to piggyback on the question was, how do you prevent trauma? And my question was like, my first thing was like, you can, and the preoccupation with trying to prevent it feels like shadow boxing, because you can't.
No.
But we spend a lot of time being very concerned about the prevention of trauma when we really can't do that. But there's such a preoccupation with with doing so.
The biggest tool you can have is the ability to process it in a way that you can transmute the trauma into a strength for you and a learning lesson for you, and that's the biggest tool you have, because you don't know when shit's gonna happen like that. But you can continue to work on yourself and empower yourself with the tools to deal with it, to process it, to handle it, and knowing that it's going to be tough. But like, what are your options? What are your options? Is to walk around with the weight, like you said earlier. It's like you had the traumatic experience and now you live with it. It's been 30 years, and you're like, hey, look, you carry it on yourself like a badge of honor, or you've somehow, some way managed to take that trauma and turn it into your superpower.
Okay, I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna add to it. So I'm gonna build on everybody's. We kind of like do this cipher. The rules of catalyst. What's the famous boat that sunk? The famous boat. Titanic. So when the Titanic went down, the Titanic had to go down for boats to become safer. Catalyst says that this is when the Bible says, don't lean on your own understanding. When people go, why God, why me, why'd you let this happen? Things have to happen for human beings to become better, greater, and stronger. If you create absolute peace for human beings, we will kill ourselves. We will become evil, we become a different animal, right? And so when you have a war, it literally, not only the war balances maybe human relations, it also balances those groups. You'll see mentally become stronger, racism is adjusted, values are adjusted, progress is made. Matter of fact, the Black Plague that hit Europe, it wiped out majority of Europe. 2/3 of Europe was killed. But there's one, I think it was 2/3. I gotta go back and look at my numbers. But majority of Europe was hit with the Black Plague, wiping people out left and right. But before the Black Plague, Europe was in a really bad space and had a really bad business system, right? And they started to spread it because business was doing good, but they had these really foul-ass ways. The Black Plague, when they finally ended the Black Plague, because it was this flea that would jump on you and then would transfer this disease. When they finally figured out how to stop the spread of the Black Plague, it launched Europe's Renaissance. Sometimes things will go bad to make things better. This is why that's why, if you were a religious person, you can't tell God why this is what God should have done. Lean not on your understanding because your understanding is limited. You cannot see the world in a balance of multiple complexities, right? And so often things will happen that are negative. Fuck, you could be in a perfect neighborhood where everybody does perfectly right, and Mother Nature can give you trauma. Because it can fall, a tree could fall and kill a whole family you kill your kids, right? That's a reality. But what does that do to you when that happens? When my mother died, man, I told people all the time, I wailed. I never even heard that sound before or after, to this day, ever came out of my body. Because that's how much pain I had. But it made me such a better person. Everybody who dies that hurts you is designed to help you live better. Somebody else's death is a gift to you, but it's because you're in the conversation of right and wrong. You don't understand Catalyst. Catalyst says that bad things will happen to make the world better. Period. Massive. My business friend said to me, the same guy I was talking to down the street about the masculinity stuff, he said, isn't it sad the pandemic didn't make Americans closer? The pandemic was supposed to make people closer. But instead, we had a fool named Donald Trump and a lot of foolish-ass Republicans and Democrat people, a whole bunch of other people, including Donald Trump, focused on differences. Crises like pandemics usually bring human beings closer. And yet, how many lives are lost? How many beautiful lives are lost to make human beings to come closer? So trauma, if we get away from this all bad, this is why I keep telling people, like, learn to see your dark side. Because there's nothing such thing. I call it dark, and I say it because I know you probably carry a negative undertone to it. It just is. Once you understand how sometimes a negative produces a positive produces a negative, then you come out of this old elementary of 1 + 1 = 2, like he just said earlier, or good and bad, or right or wrong. Life is way more complex. That's a boy and a child should think about those things because they knew this world, and that's what they need to just get past to a certain point. But when you want to play this adult game, you got to see life a lot more layers, a lot more complex. Stop watching TV when they're starting always producing these narrow-ass opinions about life that are so superficial that keep you in a servitude position. That's why I did that one class about stop watching the news. It's teaching you dumbass, childlike principles. So trauma is part of a human existence. You can't engineer it away. Now, can we reduce molestation? Yes. But let me tell you what's pretty funny. Shabisha, let me ask you a question. We got 3 ladies in the room. Josh, I don't know how you feel today, but you got 3 ladies right now. Okay. How many times have you been to an event where women just sat down and had a strategic discussion on how to prevent our girls from being molested? Well, how many times have you been to an event where a group of black women got together and said, hey, let's just have a conversation on how do we improve our strategy to reduce the molestation of our little girls? No, I'm saying, but like, I'm talking about, like, let's just be, like I know you work on a program. I'm talking about outside that program. You just go out to the community and there's events, you see flyers, like, a group of black women get together and they're gonna meet at this spot to discuss how to reduce molestation of our daughters. I wanna say that for a reason because I've been listening to this conversation. I've been watching, I hate molestation to the deepest part of my gut. To me, it's unimaginable that another person will molest another person. It's just unimaginable, right? And it's probably because I was raised with a house full of women, and I love these women so much. That thought of that is insane. And then me and my blood sister was so close growing up that the thought of somebody touching her inappropriate, it almost rips my gut open live. Yet in all my fucking years of being conscious, and all the black women say they give a fuck about it, I don't see the collaboration on doing something about it. The hypocrisy. And I'm saying that it's not you're not hypocritical because you don't care. That's bullshit. You're not hypocritical because it doesn't matter. It's bullshit. You're hypocritical because we have a break in our brain. That's what our human brain does. And the reality is that if we could just lean into that trauma and lean into it in a sense to say, hey, let's own that conversation. But it's almost like you're shamed if you want to talk about it. Some of them are scared to even have this. Like I've seen this one woman who dealt with her trauma really well, her molestation really well, but she would talk to you in a minute about it, in a second. But that was part of her healing. But I've seen other women almost have to like shame themselves every day walking down the street. There's no place for women to sit down and be like, okay, that happened to us, and that shit wasn't cool. Can we sit down and discuss how we can be smarter networks to protect our little girls and little boys? Because even boys are being molested. To keep the shit 100. So I'm just saying, this is not a blame. I don't want nobody to feel like I'm pointing fingers at nobody. I'm saying human beings are fucking complex. Because if we really was trying to remove trauma, we would do that shit. But the reality is that because human beings can't be synchronized towards effective solutions at all times, shit gonna happen, man. And if we're serious about it, let's join the team. Let's let that trauma empower you to start programs where we protect our kids. If you really don't like that trauma, whatever trauma is affecting you, become the leader because you got the deepest motivation to prevent that shit. Now, if you're not there yet, don't feel bad because it's okay. This is not a judgmental. Please don't play the sensitive game with me. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, as we talk about trauma, if we're really serious, as we heal ourselves first, because before you heal anybody, put the mask on your own face first. Sign up to be a solution. But do know that even when you're a solution, there's 8 billion people in this world, and you may save your block, you may save your neighborhood, and we should applaud ourselves. But don't feel like you're useless because you found out it's still happening in Texas or it's still happening in New York. It's just human shit's complex, man. It's fucking complex. It just is. So love yourself, love your family. Don't walk around this world. Look, you can have beefs with some white people. And that as a black person, you should probably somewhere have some beefs with white people. That's healthy. But you also shouldn't walk around hating white people, because that's not fucking healthy. That's gonna kill you. You should have white people you cool with too. I'm being straight up 100% honest. Especially Oakland white people. You know some of our Oakland white people are some of the coolest white people in the world, right? You should be cool with people because you see the value in people. You should learn to love people so much that you love your own first, you love your family first, you love your community first, you love all that first, but you should be in love with people. But if you're at a point where you don't like groups of people, I'm not worried about the people, I'm worried about you. That being said, I'm out of here. I'm getting a little too deep. I'm gonna loosen up a little bit, stretch out, because I got me getting. I don't want to get my emotions running too strong. Hey, I want to say thanks to Court. That last story he told was hella dope about the rocking and the patterns, and that shit was amazing. I'm taking that one. I'm putting that in my books. Thank y'all for showing up tonight. Some of y'all, if y'all want to show up and come in these last few months, come on in, visit us. I ain't tripping. Come sit in. Come ask those questions live. Be a part of the conversations. Josh, thank you for showing up. We got a Jewish gangster in here. This is the coldest cat in the game. With that being said, we out. Have a good night, y'all.